Chapter 51. Chapter 51. A major discovery, the statue of the Super King. While In made up his mind. On the other side, in Goldenrod City, Johto region, in the underground base of Team Rockets, Giovanni, the ghost, also had a lot of thoughts in his heart. He stared at the screen in front of him. In the picture, Rayquaza uses Dragon Pulse to easily defeat the furious Mew. The Team Rockets leader watched, heartbroken. This is a quasi-created god-level Pokemon. Too strong. If I were Team Rockets, I would have such power. Even if I wanted to rule the world, it would be effortless. But thinking about it, Giovanni showed a bitter smile. Forget it. This Pokemon isn't something I can touch at all. The colorful Rayquaza belongs to the mysterious Chen, and to go against him is undoubtedly self-defeating. The head of Team Rockets is still a little self-aware. He is clear. I can't even control a Mewtwo who is a first-level god, let alone a colorful Rayquaza who is a quasi-created god. And most importantly, 13. This powerful Pokemon also belongs to the mysterious Chen, and the other party also has a Super Demon God Hoopa, which is also a quasi-creation god-level Pokemon. In the face of such an extremely tyrannical and terrifying character, Giovanni now has the courage to take over the opponent's Pokemon, because this is purely courting death. Therefore, he simply gave up the idea of colorful Rayquaza. Although Rayquaza dared not touch, Giovanni still had a clear goal. That is Mewtwo who has escaped. From the previous performance on the new island, Mewtwo and Mew's performance in the Great Battle, it should have absorbed the Law Fragments and learned to use the Mega Evolutionary Stone/Ite. Mewtwo has not been produced for a long time. Compared to those ancient beasts, it is like a newborn baby. If you can seize it and fully control it, and cultivate it carefully, you may be able to reach the quasi-creative god realm of colorful Rayquaza in the future. Thinking of this, Giovanni's eyes burned with great ambition. If it were other mythical beasts with the strength of Mewtwo, Giovanni would not be so relentless. Because of that kind of existence, he didn't have the confidence to deal with it, let alone the way to control it. But Mewtwo is different. It was created by Team Rockets after all, and Team Rockets have special means to deal with it. According to the potential shown by Mewtwo now, it may not be able to go further in the future. If there is a quasi-creative god-level Pokemon that turns into his help in the future, why does Giovanni worry that his great cause cannot be achieved? Mewtwo must be brought back to regain control, and now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Giovanni made up his mind. Mewtwo with great potential, he is impossible to give up. He had temporarily stopped Mewtwo's pursuit because of the Alliance's close watch. But it's different now. After the influence of Mewtwo and Mew's first battle, the Alliance focused most of its attention on finding that Chen. For his Team Rockets, on the contrary, he relaxed a little bit of vigilance. Coupled with the battle with Mew, Mewtwo was seriously injured. The difficulty of hunting is greatly reduced. With such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, how could Giovanni miss it? Thinking of this, Giovanni instructed Ramda and Lance directly beside him. You two, go and cooperate with Archer to search for Mewtwo's trace now. Whatever it takes, get this Pokemon back. When necessary, use the Dusk Ball. Yes, clear. Ramda and Lance looked at each other. Both of them could see the solemn expression on the other side. Even the Dusk Ball came out. It seems that this time the leader is going to use all his strength to capture Mewtwo. This mission must not fail. On the other side, Sinnoh region, near Dinyuan Mountain, Cynthia received various news from the Sinnoh Alliance through video calls. Didn't find out about Mr. Chen? Isn't the entrance that Reverse World once opened without any gain? It seems that the clues to find Mr. Chen based on the traces of Giratina's existence have also been broken. Okay, you've worked hard. After communicating with the staff, she reluctantly put down the phone, with an undisguised disappointment on her face. It is clear that what happened on the new island has confirmed the existence of Mr. Chen. As a result, is it still possible to find no trace of the mysterious powerhouse, no matter how much we investigate? Cynthia's mood is a little complicated. On the one hand, the Alliance has been unable to find Chen's existence, which means that the identity of the potential existence who once harmed the strong man and Mew's memory of imprison will always remain a mystery. This situation has made the entire Pokemon League quite uneasy. On the other hand, Cynthia herself has great longing and yearning for this trainer who can be recognized by the god of space, time, and reverse world in the Sinnoh region. She really wanted to meet Chen and see what an extraordinary person this is, but never had a chance. Cynthia's heart was disappointed. Just then, the phone rang again. Jingle Bell, Cynthia turns on the phone. The intelligence officer who had just reported to him just now sent another text message. Professor Rowan made another discovery at the ruins? The Sinnoh champion stood up in surprise. Without saying a word, Cynthia rushed out the door and released Togekiss from Pokeball, letting it use the flying technique to fly to the ruins with herself. Soon, Cynthia successfully met with Professor Rowan. The latter saw the arrival of this Sinnoh champion, somewhat different. She knew that Cynthia liked archaeology, but she didn't expect to care so much. Do you have to run over by yourself when you find out a little bit? However, Professor Rowan immediately introduced enthusiastically. Cynthia, miss, we found a secret door while exploring the temple. 603, he stretched out his hand and gestured. Behind the secret door, we found an extremely finely carved statue. And according to the deciphering of the text on the mural, we can confirm that the statue should be the image of the ancient king. Professor Rowan's tone was excited. For a researcher like him, every discovery in the ruins can make him extremely surprised. Just a statue of an ancient king? Cynthia was slightly disappointed. She still thinks that Yi Chen is probably a trainer who has accepted the super ancient inheritance. The discovery of the statue of the ancient king, which may have existed thousands of years ago, did not help them find Yi Chen's trace. Professor Rowan, this is indeed an amazing discovery. Although a little disappointed, Cynthia still praised. And Professor Rowan also took advantage of the opportunity to invite. Miss Cynthia, would you like to take a look at that statue? Seriously, it's a pretty perfect piece of art. Of course, it's an honor. Now that everyone has come, and facing the invitation, Cynthia also became a little curious and thought it would be good to take a look at the statue by the way. So she followed the somewhat enthusiastic Rowan professor into the secret door hidden on the left side of the temple. As soon as Cynthia entered the room behind the door, she was stunned. This is... The Sinnoh champion was instantly captivated by the statue of the ancient king. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 52. Chapter 52. Upheaval in the God List. Yi Chen is going to debut? This statue. Cynthia froze in place. The first impression the stone statue gave her was that it was magical. Obviously, it should be a creation 10,000 years ago, and the lines and curves that can be carved are still extremely clear. Although the clothes and costumes on the statue are carved in stone, they still give people a sense of extreme beauty. And Cynthia was even more lost and heartbroken after seeing the face on the stone statue. She was certain that she had never seen such a handsome person in her life. This is not the beauty of an ordinary male or female with soft lines, delicate skin, and harmonious facial features. It is a beauty full of divinity and compassion. On the face of the statue, the pair of engraved lifelike eyes made Cynthia stare at him for a long time, because these eyes seemed to have some kind of powerful magic. Face it, the Sinnoh champion even felt that his soul was absorbed by those eyes that seemed to contain a dazzling universe. After finally recovering from the shock in his eyes, Cynthia looked at the statue curiously. The last time she came to the ruins, she saw that the murals were too simple, and she couldn't see the appearance of this ancient king at all. So much so that Cynthia subconsciously felt that this 10,000-year-old character was mostly the image of an old man. After seeing the statue at this time, she was surprised to find out this legendary ancient king turned out to be such an extremely handsome young man. Cynthia, miss? How are you? Just as Cynthia looked at the statue. After waiting for a long time, Professor Rowan finally couldn't help but interrupt. I'm sorry. I'm fascinated. In an instant, Cynthia came back to her senses, showing a rare shy gesture. I just stared at this statue and stared at it for a long time. The statue also happens to be a handsome and extraordinary man. It's hard to tell now. She was ashamed and annoyed, and wished she could find a crack to get in. Fortunately, Professor Rowan is also understanding. It's normal for you too. The statue of this ancient king does have an inexplicable magic power. The first time I saw it, I was also attracted by it, staying in place for a long time. If my assistants hadn't told me to go to the camp to eat, I might have been standing in front of this statue for a day, he said with a smile. His expression didn't seem to be fake. With Professor Rowan's active chatter, Cynthia's expression became much more normal. It turned out that her situation was similar to that of the others, so it wasn't a gaffe. However, she couldn't help but glance at the statue of the ancient king from the corner of her eyes. Cynthia always felt that there was an unusual charm on it that attracted her. She was also strong-willed as the Sinnoh champion, and immediately shook her head to wake herself up a little. At the same time, in order to stop herself from paying attention to the statue frequently, she immediately asked and found other topics. Professor Rowan, besides the statue, have you found any other useful information in the ruins? This question seems to have really stopped the old man on the opposite side. Professor Rowan showed a somewhat embarrassed look and said with a bit of helplessness, At present, in the ruins, although there are many people selected by the Alliance to assist in the exploration, but most people don't actually understand any ancient script, so there are no more discoveries for the time being. That's it. Cynthia was clearly disappointed. The statue of the ancient king does have a kind of magical power, but such a statue of a person from 10,000 years ago is of no use in finding the trace of Mr. Chen today. Obviously, this trip was in vain. After thinking about it, she quickly decided to leave the ruins first. After making the decision, she exchanged a few words with Professor Rowan and then walked out of Dinuan Mountain. However, just when Cynthia came outside the ruins, a strange picture suddenly appeared in her mind. It's the moment when the Pokemon leaderboard is revived. Not just Cynthia. At the same time, a spectacular picture emerged in the minds of people all over the world. Indigo Plateau, above the champion arena, below the list of gods. Countless golden and simple words condensed and twisted, and finally turned into a mighty voice that sounded like a bell. Top Showdown leaderboard. Coming soon. Conditions for entering the list. Collect and display the battle scenes of top trainers commanding Pokemon battles. The intensity of the battle, the tactical cooperation, and the level of excitement will be used as the review conditions for entering the list. One person can only be on the list once. Remaining time of the God list deduction. 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. In an instant, the world is boiling. The new list has appeared again, which is great. We have another chance to get the reward of the origin of the universe. This time the ranking is not completely related to strength. It is to be selected according to the excitement of the battle. The rules of the God ranking have changed again. I seem to have a chance to be on the list. My Charizard once was on the verge of death, holding a Greninja's water shuriken to complete the counter kill. Is this exciting and intense? This time, the God list will not be monopolized by those strong people. I have a friend. He is amazing. He used Pikachu to use Gigavolts to defeat Electivire. He has a good chance to be on the list. I feel that Mr. Chen is going to top the list again. His Pokemon's highest combat power has reached the quasi-creation god level. If a battle breaks out, I am afraid it will destroy the world. Yeah, Mr. Chen must be at the top of the list. Others have no chance at all. Wait, since we are going to show the trainer commanding Pokemon, doesn't it mean that this time we also have a chance to see Mr. Chen's true face? F***K. It's really good to say that. Finally, I can see what Chen's growth looks like first. This list is too powerful. People are extremely excited about the release of the new God list, except for those who are simply watching the fun. After seeing the conditions for entering the list, some powerful trainers remembered that they had, Wong's good, played a subtle cooperation with Pokemon, and completed the Jedi counterattack. I feel that I also have a chance to be on the list and get the reward of the origin of the universe. So very excited. But more trainers pay attention to another key point. That is the list this time. They can finally meet Chen, the hero who subdues the gods. 4. They have great admiration and respect in their hearts. This is not only because of his strength, but also because he saved the Kanto region and even the entire world last time. But let them regret. For such a hero who is respected by countless people, they don't even know what the other party looks like. Fortunately, this update of the God list seems to make their wish come true. But at this moment, an untimely voice sounded. You guys are thinking too much. This time, Mr. Chen has little hope of even being on the list, let alone occupying the top spot. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 53. Chapter 53. It's all about beasts riding on the face. How did he get on the list? This time, Mr. Chen won't even be on the top of the list. Maybe it's very difficult to even get on the list. When many people thought that Chen would still be at the top of the list this time, some people expressed different opinions and said, haven't you read the description of the Pokemon God list? The intensity of the battle is a very important factor in this list. But Mr. Chen's strength is almost crushing everyone. Who can fight him in a wonderful and fierce battle? The beast rides on the face and kills in one move. That's fierce. Hearing this, those who thought Chen would dominate the list and prepare to refute were immediately speechless. Yeah, Even if Mr. Chen only takes out a Pokemon at the peak of the first level god, there is no trainer in the world who can compete with him. That being said, it seems so. I really didn't expect that Too Strong will have this kind of side effect, and it will not be on this list because there is no opponent. It's a pity. I originally wanted to take the opportunity to witness Mr. Chen's true face, but I'm afraid I won't have the chance. 603, that's right. What a pity. This was the best chance to meet that mysterious hero. Don't say it yet. Those who think Chen can't make it to the list are really well informed in their analysis. So many people think about it carefully and agree with this point of view. After all, with the strength of that Mr. Chen, who is worthy to be his opponent? Who can fight him fiercely? Does it not exist? Not to mention other trainers. Even the region champion of each region was killed in one move in the face of him. And what's so exciting about this fight? Although Mr. Chen's strength is strong, it is precisely because he is too strong. That limited his chances of making this list. Thought here. Those who want to take this list to see Chen, the hero who saved the Kanto region, are full of regret and annoyance. At the same time, outside the Dianyuanshan ruins, compared to the annoyance of ordinary trainers, Cynthia is an incomparable surprise at this time. That's great. This time the Pokemon leaderboard will show the trainer commanding Pokemon. Then, didn't I see Mr. Chen's true face and his style of commanding Pokemon? Moreover, you can also judge the region and climate that Mr. Chen is in based on the clothes he was wearing when he was on the list. At that time, with Chen's appearance information and some supporting evidence, the difficulty of finding this peerless powerhouse will be greatly reduced, compared to normal trainers. Cynthia never thought about Chen's inability to make the list, because she is very clear. Chen, a peerless powerhouse, will definitely be on the ranking list this time, and even the capital of the ranking list is normal. According to Lance's discovery in the new island, the Violent Mew mentioned that Chen has been hurt before, and can hurt the supreme existence of the man who rules the gods. It must have been a shocking battle with him. That kind of battle may be a violent collision between the creation god-level Pokemon. And to know, the fight between the two first-level gods, Mew and Mewtwo, almost destroyed Kanto. How terrifying should the battle of god-level Pokemon be? How intense will the battle be, BDCB? It is no exaggeration to say that it is a battle of that level. Isn't it normal to be on the battle list, or even to be the number one? The announcement of the god list will provide us with many clues to Mr. Chen. Maybe even after this ranking, we can directly find Mr. Chen based on the clues. Thinking of this, the Sinnoh champion burst into a smile. Finally, with the help of this god list, we can get a glimpse of the hero who saved the Kanto region. With the specific appearance, the difficulty for the Pokemon Alliance to find Chen is greatly reduced. The position of champion, who has the power to rule the entire alliance, has been vacant for so long, and it is finally time to give it its true master. Therefore, Cynthia is looking forward to the upcoming god list. And with this idea, Cynthia is by no means alone. In the Unova region, the new champion Catlia just turned down all the work at hand. Stay home, just waiting for the announcement of the god list. Hoenn region, Steven and Wallace. One gave up tracking meteorites for meteor falls. A performance that turned down a gorgeous contest. Get on the plane and take the initiative to go to the Kanto region, Champion Arena, which is the location of the Shanbang, just to experience Chen's peerless elegance for the first time. Sinnoh region, Lucian Elite, Kalos region, Diantha, numerous top figures in major regions. They all left the things at hand, just to wait wholeheartedly, and one day later, Chen on the god list will come. Because whatever Cynthia can think of, they can think of too. That's why they were so looking forward to this list of gods. This time, they are not rewarded not for ranking, just to see the legend in person, then find him, follow him, and let him lead the alliance to protect the world. Under the attention and expectation of countless people, a day passed quietly. The countdown on the Pokemon God list has reached 0. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 54. Chapter 54. Evolution in Adversity. It's about to start at last. I wonder if the fierce battle I challenged Jim last time will make it to the list? You think too much, and your battle is fierce? If it wasn't for the leader's intentional training to let you go, you would have been defeated long ago. That's right, to say that I'm most likely to be on the list. In the battle not long ago, my Squirtle was reversed, and I have a great chance of being on the list. Seeing the end of the countdown on the God list, everyone looked forward to it, buzzing. Also in the sense of expectation of everyone, with the bright brilliance blooming one after another. The new list in the minds of people all over the world slowly begins. Release. However, to everyone's surprise, this time, the rankings were not displayed on the list of gods, but a video of a battle was played. On the screen, a young man shouted anxiously, "Charmeleon, don't give up, stand up." In front of him was a bruised Charmeleon, gritted his teeth and crawled up from the battlefield. And the opposite of the boy, it was a middle-aged man who commanded Venusaur, with a hint of advice on his face. "Aren't you giving up yet?" Even with the restraint of attributes, Venusaur evolution is ahead in level, and the gap in strength is too great. The teenager was obviously not affected by the words, just shouted firmly. Charmeleon uses Flare Blitz. The already exhausted Pokémon, still burning huge energy at this time, turned into an invisible impact and flew straight to Venusaur. Venusaur uses a Cane Whip, the middle-aged man commanded. Charmeleon's Flare Blitz is really powerful, but Venusaur is an evolution type with a higher level after all. Countless Rattan weaves were whipping frantically, and all the power of Flare Blitz was dissipated in less than a while. Finally, the whiplash slapped Charmeleon hard, knocking the Pokémon to the ground. However, Charmeleon stood up abruptly again in a state of serious injuries. Then, it is the repetition of the previous picture again and again. The boy and Charmeleon were defeated again and again, and they got up tenaciously again and again. The scene was extremely tragic. Charmeleon's body is covered with wounds, blood dripping, and even white bones can be seen in some places. But it still had an unconvincing expression, and even roared proudly at Venusaur. "Come on!" In the Pokémon world, people watched this battle scene and shouted excitedly, "Charmeleon, beat it! Venusaur's stamina has been cut a lot. Great chance. Go! Charmeleon, win!" This Pokémon is really unyielding, a natural warrior. Maybe he really has a chance to defeat his opponent. Countless people were touched by the tenacity of the boy and Charmeleon in the picture. Cheer for them. The video still continues. After being knocked back again, Charmeleon's body trembled violently. Seems like it could fall at any moment, but its stubborn facade, and the whole body has a bright light. Evolution? The middle-aged man in the picture was full of surprise. Junior trainers are also extremely excited. In an instant, the white light dissipated, and the Charmeleon after the evolution was completed. No, it should be Charizard, although it is still scarred at this time. But his eyes are full of great brilliance. Charizard, use large print. Looking at Charizard, who had finished evolution, the boy gave the attack command again. Roar. Then Charizard's mouth lit up with a sparkle. That is a high temperature of rapid condensation. The next second, the violent flames spit out from Charizard's mouth, converged into a big shape, and slammed straight towards Venusaur. Woohoo! The violent flame temperature is extremely high, and the speed is even faster. That Venusaur had no way to hide, no way to avoid it, and the instant burst of flames filled the entire battlefield. And Venusaur also lost the ability to fight in the flames and collapsed. The screen ends here. On the list of gods, new words were refreshed. 100th place. Charmeleon, Charizard, Trainer, Ruby Sodium Rewards, Charizard Evolutionary Stone/IDEX, Y evaluation on the list. In the face of adversity, evolution is resolute and extraordinary, and has great potential for future growth. Wow! Seeing this scene, countless people in the entire Pokémon world cheered excitedly. For flowers, really succeeded. Charmeleon turned defeat into victory. It evolved in a corner, frustrated its opponent. This battle is indeed qualified to be on the list of gods. It's really exciting. The 100th race is like this? Isn't the next one more exciting? The people of the Pokémon world feel feasted. On the one hand, I'm excited about the successful reversal of the teenager. At the same time, I'm looking forward to a more exciting battle scene in the future. It's simply a visual feast. In addition, there are some people who know what to do with envy and excitement. 2 Evolutionary Stone/IT by Charizard. These are priceless treasures. The number of Evolutionary Stones/ITs produced in the Kalos region every year is very small. Even for the champion elite level powerhouses, it is extremely difficult to collect Charizard's XY Mega Stones. This god list is just taken out. Be rewarded. 0. I'm dying. I've been looking for a Mega Stone for my Charizard for years. Never got a chance. It's very possible that this boy named Ruby now will reach the elite level in the future. Using the Mega Evolutionary Stone/IT evolution, Pokemon strength will be improved by at least a big level. Just because I fought a wonderful battle and got such a generous reward, I am so envious of me. These people are so excited. After a million evolution, the improvement of Pokemon strength is extremely terrifying. In addition, the output of Mega Stone itself is very small, and the internal digestion of Kalos region is not enough. It is difficult for people from outside the region to get it. Similar rewards have appeared on the God list a few times before, but not many times. This time, only 100 people on the God list can get such a reward. Many trainers, especially those with Charizard, go crazy with envy. But most people are still very excited at this time. There are still 99 such spectacular battle scenes. This time you can feast your eyes on it. Yeah, the sense of picture given by the gods is too strong. It makes people feel like watching the game on the spot. Just as many people were excitedly looking at the god list, waiting for the next battle screen. Another sigh that someone ruined the atmosphere. Oh, what a pity. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 55. Chapter 54. This time, we will definitely find Chen. Oh, what a pity. The more immersive and real the battle scene displayed on the god list, the more I feel we are at a loss. Like Mr. Chen, a peerless powerhouse, he may not be able to make the list due to his overwhelming strength. We can't witness the scene of the battle that saved the Kanto hero. Yeah, I don't know what Mr. Chen will look like when he directs Pokemon, but unfortunately we didn't get to meet. Listening to these people throwing cold water, I analyzed it. For a while, the excitement of many trainers was extinguished by most of them. Chen's strength far exceeds everyone in the world today. All his battles are estimated to be the end of the 617 crushing. It might not even make the list at all. If it was said that most people had only a little regret about it before. Now I see the battle screen displayed on the god list, so shocking and real. It is even more difficult for people to accept that the dust battle scene cannot be listed. At the same time, the Kanto Alliance. The leaders of the Alliance, Damalangi, Professor Oak, Bruno, and Agatha, two elites, looked surprised. This boy named Ruby Na is a genius. Being able to turn Charmeleon evolution and turn it into a victory at such an extreme disadvantage. His talent as a trainer is great. Bruno's sharp comments. Professor Oak also spoke up. The Charizard used by this boy is the Yuuzhan family in our Kanto region. Most of them are from Kanto. I suggest that he can be listed as the key training target of the Kanto League. Agatha also added a sentence. That's right. Ruby got the reward of the god list, and over time, he will definitely have an elite-level combat power. And Damalangi, needless to say, he is the most urgent. Yes, such a genius is exactly what the Alliance needs now. He immediately got up and called. Yes, that's right. You just need to find someone according to the appearance of the boy who appeared on the list of gods. You can make the conditions better and draw him into our league. You can promise that boy that you will focus on nurturing him. Damalangi communicated with the staff of the Alliance and arranged a group of people to find the job of Ruby Sodium. After completing the instructions, he sat back in his seat. At this time, several top figures in the Kanto region were in a good mood. I didn't expect that this time, the god ranking showed a battle scene, and the major regions of Helping Hand could discover talented trainers early. Yeah, many people are just from poor backgrounds, and all their strengths grow very slowly. But when they fight, they can still show the essence of genius. It seems that after this list, the strength of the entire Pokemon Alliance can grow again. The talent pool has at least doubled. Damalangi chatted excitedly with everyone. Then, to the surprise of the head of the Alliance, 10 minutes later, the person who had gone to look for Ruby Na called him back. And listening to the news over the phone, Damalangi's expression became more and more strange. Fighting elite Bruno next to him, he couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Damalangi explained with an unexpected expression. The staff of the Alliance just made an inquiry. The 100th battle video on the god list should actually be from 3 years ago. And Ruby Na has already joined our Kanto Alliance as an investigator, and has now been promoted to the superior level. Also, he himself is the focus of our league's training target. What? For a time, everyone present was amazed. It's actually a battle scene from 3 years ago? Professor Oak is a little different. Because the picture presented on the list of gods is too real, it makes people feel as if something is happening around them. He really didn't expect that the Battle of Ruby Sodium, ranked 100th, was already 3 years ago. Professor Oak also has a doubt in his heart. The Pokemon God ranking only says that the ranking is based on how exciting the battle is, but there doesn't seem to be a specific time limit. Then the 100th place was a battle 3 years ago. Will there be earlier ones? As far as I know, super ancient humans have a history of driving Pokemon to fight thousands of years ago. He had an occupational disease and instinctively wanted to study. But soon, Professor Oak burst into laughter. What am I thinking about? Although there were Pokemon duels 10,000 years ago, people at that time knew very little about Pokemon, and the level of excitement was not even comparable to some ordinary gym duels today. And how can someone who has been dead for tens of thousands of years be on the list? Professor Oak immediately put the unrealistic idea behind him. Delanchi, who was beside Professor Oak, seemed to have thought of something and said excitedly. The staff mentioned just now that the battle scene announced by the God List is a match between Ruby Na and the Quartz Alliance. The League's playback system also has the battle on the God ranking, but the clarity is far less than the God ranking, and it doesn't give you the feeling of being there. They completely relied on the high-definition picture of the top 2.1, and they quickly found Ruby Na, who is now serving as the superior investigator. You mean? Professor Oak mused. The Alliance's face recognition technology has now become popular, and the picture on the God List is extremely clear. Just wait until Mr. Yi Chun is on the list, and finding him will probably be very easy. Damn, Alan is so excited. And the two elite and Professor Oak who were present thought for a while, and thought it was reasonable. It seems, we can finally see the true face of the hero who saved Kanto. Great. The seat of our league's overall champion can be given out. Everyone is looking forward to it. Just waiting, on the list of gods, Yi Chen appears. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 56. Chapter 56. The Leader, the Battle of the Gods. Also in the expectation of everyone, the picture of the God List changed again. A Lucario who has undergone a mega evolution bravely rushed to the Macamp of Dynamax. Number 99. Lucario Trainer. Shauka Reward. Prospective Elite Berry evaluation on the list. Lucario forcibly endured dozens of fighting-type ultimate moves, and in theory, he should have been killed more than a dozen times. But he turned defeat into victory. 90th. Tyranitar Trainer. Luo Urk Reward. Tyranitar Mega Evolutionary Stone /IT plus Quasi-Elite Berry evaluation on the list. With excellent Sandstorm tactics, defeat the enemy. 83rd. Gardevoir Trainer. Forstein Reward. Gardevoir Mega Evolutionary Stone /IT plus Quasi-Elite Berry *2 evaluation on the list. In the face of the extremely restrained Dark Pokemon, successfully used the special attributes of Hidden Power to turn the tide of battle. It's amazing. It's dazzling. Oh my gosh. Every game is amazing. The list of the gods this time is too fast. Replay those battle scenes a few times. It's so fun. This is the top duel. Various tactical commands and desperate comebacks are almost as good as art. The people of the Pokemon world are thrilled, especially those trainers who are keen on fighting. They are even more feasting and addicting. Every battle is extremely intense and exciting, so that with the continuous announcement of the rankings of the gods, more and more people put down what they are doing and watch the next battle with all their hearts. They are very much looking forward to what kind of exquisite showdown there will be in the future. On the list of gods, a field of wonderful battles are constantly presented. 72nd, Sizer 66th, Honchcrow 52nd, Mismagius 40th, Metagross Trainer, Showen Reward, Metagross Mega Stone plus Elite Berry evaluation on the list. By carrying Focus Sash and using the extremely high double defense cultivated, after continuous Calm Mind in the game, complete a series of 6 feats. Then the picture above the list of gods surged again. A figure that is very familiar to many people in the Kanto region has appeared. It's Saffron City Gym leader Sabrina. In front of her stands her own ace, Pokemon Alakazam. In the picture, you can see that on the opposite side of Sabrina is a young man with 13 long hair with several Pokeballs floating around him. Apparently a psychic too. The Pokemon driven by the youth is a Gardevoir that looks quite powerful. The two sides look extremely tense. Alakazam, extrasensory, Sabrina said coldly. The young man opposite her said with a weird smile. Gardevoir, we also use extrasensory. 2 Pokemon doing the same move. However, 3 psychic forces collided together. Apparently, Sabrina's opponent had his psychic blessing on Gardevoir. In an instant, Alakazam is losing ground. Ridiculous. Do you think your psychic is better than mine? Sabrina said disdainfully. Then, the the tyrannical confusion suddenly erupted from her. Sabrina's long hair, which had been loose, fluttered in pieces. The blue light shines in the eyes. Alakazam also got the helping hand from the trainer. For a time, two identical psychic moves, extrasensory, collided fiercely. The violent thoughts continued to dissipate. Even the entire battlefield that was torn apart was full of flying sand and stones, and it was chaotic. The strengths of the two sides are very close, and if they fight against each other, it is likely to result in a lose-lose situation. In the Pokemon world, some knowledgeable psychic people shouted in horror. This game is likely to have extremely tragic results. Psychic is blessed by Pokemon. Once the match fails, the trainer will be directly attacked by Pokemon. Miss Sabrina, you have fought such a dangerous battle. The battle displayed by the God List at this time, although there is no complicated move exchange and tactical arrangement like other previous battles. But the level of danger is the most terrifying game in the entire ranking so far. The confusion level of the psychic players on both sides is close. Alakazam and Gardevoir are also similar in strength. Then, after the intercom is over, the trainer on the losing side is likely to be seriously injured. And the picture on the list of gods continues. The impact of the thoughts on both sides intensified, and even the ground beneath Gardevoir and Alakazam's feet began to shatter. Large blocks of cement bricks and steel bars, affected by the confusion of these two psychic Pokemons, were split into pieces and floated in the air, dancing wildly. It even formed an extremely terrifying metal storm. Both Sabrina and her opponent have blue veins on their faces. Apparently all psychic has been poured out. But the duel between Gardevoir and Alakazam is still close. At this moment, Sabrina's eyes flashed with determination. Alakazam withdrew extrasensory. Used the Shadow Ball. In an instant, Sabrina made a decision. She used her psychic to resist the combined force of Gardevoir and the opposing trainer. Although only for a moment. Although Sabrina bleeds for this serious injury. But enough. Alakazam followed the trainer's orders without hesitation. Confusion withdrawn. The spoons in this Pokemon's hands bend instantly. A spooky sphere takes shape. Then, guided by Alakazam, he slammed into Gardevoir's body. This powerful psychic Pokemon is still maintaining the output of extrasensory at this time, and his body is completely defenseless. With the restraint of ghosts on psychic, the power of the ghost erodes into Gardevoir's body. In an instant it was hit hard. The dark purple energy group exudes the sound of tears. Gardevoir fell helplessly. The screen freezes at this moment. 40th place. Alakazam Trainer. Sabrina Rewards. Alakazam, Gardevoir Megastone plus Elite Berry evaluation on the list. With the flesh and blood of human beings, he resisted Pokemon's moves head-on and created the only chance of victory. His decisiveness and courage are worthy of praise. The battle was brutal enough, but in the end, Sabrina leader won. Miss Sabrina won really beautifully. She used her own body to hold on to a move to ensure victory. This Pokemon battle between the two sides is not really exciting. The real power is the confrontation between the two trainers. Sabrina leader is still better. This fight really refreshed many people's impressions of Sabrina. Sabrina's determination and her own ruthlessness in battle. Most trainers can't keep up. Many people are quite impressed. And with the appearance of Sabrina, on the list of gods, some familiar names began to appear. 33rd, Johto Poison Elite Aguay's Crobat against Salamence. 27th place, Kalos Steel Elite Goose Armor's Shield Sword Monster vs Nosepass. 19th place, Sinnoh Fire Elite Flint's Infernape vs Torterra. 12th, Unova Ghosts Elite Chantal's Golurk vs Sceptile. The powerhouses of the major regions, You Can Sing and I will appear. And the surprises and expectations of people in the Pokemon world are getting bigger and bigger, because the level of splendid duels displayed by the God List is constantly rising. Everyone wants to know how thrilling a top 10 or even a top 3 fight can be. At this time, in the Kanto region, many people cheered, because they saw a familiar figure in the picture presented by the God List. In the list of gods, the figure that appeared was the Ice Element Elite Lorelei, and standing opposite him is Lance in a black and red trench coat. This is a repeat of the first Kanto Champion Challenge. The two sides launched a fierce confrontation. Gyarados uses the Fear Face to reduce the opponent's speed. Lance shouted loudly, and then his Gyarados made a weird look, intimidating Dugong. And Lorelei's voice was extremely calm. Use Mist to dispel all abnormal abilities. Dugong breathed out the smoke with ease, defusing Lance's offensive. Then Lorelei ordered again. Psybeam. Avoid. Lance's face was full of suffocation. Faced with attribute restraint his Lorelei. Face to face, you can't win at all. However, whenever Lance wants to use the change-type moves to bring some advantages to himself, it will be easily cracked by Lorelei. In the Godless screen, Lance's failed champion challenge was perfectly displayed. In the screen, at that time, Lance, who was still a Dragon Elite, fell down one by one with the Pokemon in his hand. In the end, Lance had no choice but to release the Ace Dragonite. It's a pity that Dragonite is strong, and even knocked down 2 of Lorelei's Pokemon in a row. But the final result is already doomed. Piloswine, use Blizzard, then Protect. Dragonite, Dragon Rush, the 2 elites shouted. The final result is self-evident. The Dragon Rush slammed into the protection and had no effect. And Blizzard took Lance's Dragonite, the last bit of fighting power. The picture is also frozen at the moment when Dragonite fell. 10th, Piloswine Trainer, Lorelei Reward, Glalie Mega Stone plus Ultra Stone plus Champion Berry List Evaluation. In the face of a powerful offensive, perfect use of various means to reduce the opponent's physical strength, and finally kill the dragon in the endless frost hell. After the list was released, there was a lot of discussion in the Pokemon world. Lorelei Elite is too lucky, right? He was able to get the 10th place twice in a row? This is something that many champion-level powerhouses have not won. I'm so envious. The previous time, 2 Super Limit Stones. 2 Pokemons can break through to the realm of the 3rd level Divine Beast. Kanto Champion Lance, it's a backdrop again. Ha ha ha. Do Elite's failed challenge will actually be taken out to whip the corpse, laughing at me to death. I don't know why, but just imagining the expression on Elite's face now makes me laugh. Many people are very envious of Lorelei ranking 10th on the list twice in a row and getting a powerful reward. Lorelei's luck is indeed good. As long as the ranking is pushed back a little, the reward will be greatly reduced. While envious, many people were amused by the fact that the only double region champion Lance today became a background board, and they all laughed. At the same time, Johto region. In the ruins of Aluff, when Lance looked at the contents of the God list, he was also a little broken in his heart. What is this called? I lost a champion's challenge and it wasn't over, was it? Does it have to be seen by the whole world? The researchers around Lance even laughed and joked. Mr. Dew, are you on the list in disguise? Yeah. You commanded a group of Pokemons who had consumed a lot of money before and fought Lorelei Elite to the end, and it was only a matter of time to win, which also reflects your superb commanding art. All right. Lance isn't someone who can't make jokes. Don't talk nonsense. This is clearly the painstaking effort of me, the current Kanto champion. If I hadn't lost to Lorelei Elite at the time, the Kanto region would have lost a 10th place in this peak duel list. Lance was in a good mood. After talking with the researchers, he sent a congratulatory text message directly to the department. Congratulations, you have won the 10th place in a God list. Soon, you will be able to have 2 Pokemon with the advanced level of the 3rd level Divine Beast. If I don't make it to the list this time, it is estimated that the champion position will be abdicated and replaced by a virtuous one. Of course, the text message said so, but Lance was very confident in his heart. He believes that the top 9 of the next peak duel list must have their own place. After all, he is also a veteran of hundreds of battles, and there are still many highlight battles, no worse than Lorelei's. At this point, another battle animation has finished playing. 9th place, Escavalier of former Unova champion Alder against the 3-headed dragon. Reward, Shards of the Law of Steel. 7th place, the master of the former champion of the Galar League, Mastid, against the boss Lyron. Reward, Fighting Law Fragments. 6th place, Galar champion Leon's Steel Crow versus Dragapult. Reward, Shard of the Law of Darkness. Shard of the Law of Steel. 3rd place, Sinnoh champion Cynthia's Garchomp versus Empoleon. Reward, Dragon Law Fragment *3. The list of gods is constantly deduced and changed. At the end of the screen, Dragonite is facing the Pokemon hidden in the armor, barely knocking it back. 2nd place, Dragonite Trainer, Lance. Reward, Dragon Law Fragment *5. List evaluation. Although facing Mutwo, whose strength is limited by armor and can only act for 3 minutes, Dragonite really repels the gods. It's like a miracle. Lance was stunned when he looked at the picture of the gods. This is the Pokemon that was released at Blaine on Red Lotus Island. Hidden in the armor at the time. I still don't know what Pokemon it is. It is so strong. It turns out to be Mutwo, who has limited strength. That said, I have to thank Blaine for giving me the chance to challenge the limited edition Mutuo, otherwise I might not have won the second place. Lance's face is full of joy at this time. The reward for the second place is 5 pieces of the Dragon Law. It's so rich. He is confident that his Dragonite will break through to the second-level God Realm in the future. After the second place on the leaderboard was announced, the entire Pokemon world was buzzing with excitement. These champion-level powerhouses really have commanding abilities, far exceeding ordinary people. It's wonderful. Champion-level Pokemon are fighting with all their strength, and their power is amazing. Many battlegrounds have been directly smashed. Sure enough, the top battle is even more shocking than the league competition. I feel that I have learned a lot of commanding tips just by watching it for a while. The tactical arrangements of champion elites are really like art. Every step has foreshadowing and hidden tricks, which are interlinked. Mr. Lance successfully dragged the restricted Mutuo for 3 minutes. As expected of Mr. Yi-chun, before the appearance of Mr. Yi-chun, the dragons were recognized as the strongest in all regions. Crossing Elite was really scary. A small piece of Red Lotus Island was shattered. This match against Mutuo can only be ranked second? What kind of scene is the first? I can't imagine it. Right now, I just want to know how good the first place is to surpass Mr. Lance's game. Many trainers are amazed and sigh that these top-ranked battles are more exciting than each other. It's dizzying and even shocking to the mind. The control of various details and the arrangement of tactics make people fascinated. When they were shocked by the splendor of these battles, many people were extremely curious. The second-place Lance took on Mutuo, and the intensity of the battle was the pinnacle. In that battle, the elite tried his best to use all kinds of exquisite tactical coordination to barely fail to lose, and it was dragged abruptly until Mutuo was affected by the armor on his body and could not continue the fight and failed. Although it is Mutuo with limited strength, but it is also a classic battle in which mortals challenged and repelled the gods. Is there a more exciting duel than this? Many can't figure it out. This kind of battle actually only ranks second. So what is the first battle? Is it the real battle of the gods? Thought here. Countless people stared at the picture on the god list, looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing it. At the same time, elite champions and league executives from each region are even more excited. Is it finally coming? If you guessed correctly, the first place should be Mr. Yi-chun. Unova region Katlia clenched her hands. Can we finally see the elegance of that peerless powerhouse? Kalos region Diantha even forgot the dessert in hand at this time. What will Mr. Yi-chun look like? His command should be beyond imagination, right? I have to study hard. Sinnoh region, Cynthia even took out a notebook, ready to record Yi-chun's conducting skills. The top powerhouses are in high spirits. They know. The most important event in this list is coming. The battle ranked number 1 will be evolved and displayed. And according to the information brought by Lance, this is the number 1 matchup. It is very likely that Mr. Yi-chun, the one who drove the gods, and the unknown existence who could harm him, fought an epic battle. In this battle, they may see a true battle of the gods. And Yi-chun, the extremely mysterious existence, will also show his true face for the first time. It's coming. It's coming. A group of elite champions were emotional. Although they were in different places at this time, their ideas were surprisingly the same. It's in the spotlight of the world. A new picture on the list of gods slowly appeared. Peak Duel, the number 1 battle scene. Release. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 57. Before the picture took shape, a terrifying sense of oppression spread out first. It was as if there was a big mountain in the heart. Everyone felt a tightness in their hearts, and even their breathing became heavier. On Indigo Plateau, Champion Arena, the Pokemon who sensed this oppressive force shivered even more, as if something terrifying was coming to this place, and instinctively wanted to escape. But at this moment, their masters didn't notice the change in the slightest, and their minds were all attracted, all of them staring at the sky with a dull expression. Under the evolution of the leaderboard, one after another figure is appearing in the Tiangong. Even if he knew that these were just phantoms, he still couldn't suppress the shock in everyone's heart. Time and space are distorting, and blue-purple rays of light are intertwined. That's Palkia and Dialga, the legendary beasts who ruled time and space. Beer took off all the momentum. Even if they had seen the figures of these two mythical beasts on the leaderboard, they still shocked everyone again. It is beyond human comprehension. Before everyone could return to their senses, a huge dark void suddenly appeared in the field of vision, followed by a deafening roar. The king of reverse space, Giratina. The three mythical beasts appeared at the same time. Even if they were just phantoms, the terrifying power they carried still made everyone take a deep breath. Is this the power of the beast? It's terrifying. I seem to feel their rage. This level of divine beast, even if it destroys the entire Kanto region, I am afraid it will be easy. Someone murmured, eyes full of horror. Even the elite champions of the Pokemon League all looked solemn at the moment. The restoration of this battle scene is extremely real, as if they were really in the battlefield. Not only could they see everything clearly, but they could even feel the rage emotions from those divine beasts. With the appearance of Giratina, more and more figures gradually appeared in the field of vision. Reshiram, Zekrom, Kyurem, Latias, Latios, all of whom once dominated the charts, appeared together at this time. In addition to these, there seem to be other existences in the rear, but the number of divine beasts is too large, and they are all hidden by their figures, so they cannot be seen clearly. Just as everyone was struggling to see clearly, a dragon roar suddenly came from the heavenly palace. The radiant rays of light fell from the sky, and everyone couldn't help but jump their eyes. The space is distorting, and the unparalleled coercion is like a god coming to the world. Colorful Rayquaza. A name appeared in everyone's mind at the same time. This is the top of the 617 singles of the first released Dragon list, with quasi-creative strength. What was different from the last time was that this time, the colorful rays of light were full of fierce killing intent. Even if it was not aimed at them, it made everyone feel a chill in their hearts. In addition to the shock, everyone who calmed down also noticed something else. The colorful Rayquaza hovered high in the sky, and a figure could be vaguely seen on its forehead. As the glow faded away, the figure gradually became clearer. It was a young man in black, with a handsome face. His facial features seemed to be carefully carved, and every point was just right. Although he is a man, he has an indescribable sense of beauty. Even if he is a woman, he will be ashamed of himself. Compared with these, the most eye-catching is the pair of pupils of the young man. At first glance, they are all black pupils on a white background. If you look closely, they seem to be hiding a star palace. They are dazzling and dazzling. It's hard to get caught up in it. Everyone was fascinated, until a smear of darkness entered their sight, which woke them up. It was a touch of extreme darkness, spreading from the end of the sky. Looking up, an incomparably huge figure had descended behind the young man at some point. It was a demon god, with a body as huge as a mountain, with a braid on its head, and 6 hanging arms floating on its side, each arm covered with a golden ring. Quasi-creation level, Super Devil Hoopa. An existence comparable to the colorful Rayquaza. Everyone stared blankly, only shock left in their pupils. This scene is too terrifying. Rarely seen on weekdays, many divine beasts that have never even been heard of are now appearing in double digits in one breath, and all of them are guarding the young man's surroundings. As if the young man was the king of the gods. This kind of scene, let alone seeing it, is not even thought of on weekdays. Gudong. In the champion arena, someone secretly swallowed his saliva, which was clearly audible in this deadly environment, but no one dared to make a joke. In fact, most people guessed the title of the leader from the beginning, and under the protection of the gods, the identity of the young man has long been revealed, but thinking and seeing are two different things. What's more, no one thought it would be such a scene. Is this really something humans can do? Why do I feel that divine beasts don't seem to be that rare? I guess that the top spot might be the Battle of the Gods, but I didn't expect it to be the Battle of the Gods, BDCB. Before the list was released, everyone had psychological construction. Lance's battle can be said to be extremely intense. Both the fighting skills and the strength of both sides have reached the limit of everyone's perception. That level can only be ranked second, and the first is most likely a battle of gods. The crowd originally expected it to be a one-on-one battle between divine beasts at most, but looking at this posture and the rage conveyed by those divine beasts, it was obviously not very similar. Impossible. With so many divine beasts attacking together, the aftermath of the battle alone could destroy a region. How could we not notice it? I want to know now, what kind of existence can stop the beasts fighting? Did no one notice the back of Chen? I'm afraid he doesn't know what we know about the divine beasts. It's too outrageous. I'm almost numb. This Lord Chen has conquered more divine beasts than my total number of Pokemons. Everyone was amazed and shocked, and the elite champions of the Pokemon League were no exception. Kalos region. Diantha looked at the phantom in front of him and fell into silence for the first time. Kanto region, Lance held his breath. The only trace of fighting intent in his eyes completely dissipated at this moment, and he calmed Dragonite beside him with a solemn expression. Mr. Yichun, how strong is your strength? Professor Oak, who was in the alliance with him, was also extremely awe-inspiring at the moment, staring at the phantoms in the picture. It seems that we are still underestimating the strength of this Mr. Yichun. Those exposed on the leaderboard are not all his Pokemon. Wait until, after this matter, we must mobilize all resources to find him and convey our goodwill, which is the highest priority. Oak's eyes flickered. Now that they already know Yichun's appearance, the difficulty of finding it must be greatly reduced. And the same idea has already appeared in the hearts of other Pokemon Alliance executives. Meanwhile, Cynthia, who is still in the Sinnoh region, saw the picture through the power of the leaderboards. But unlike the others, she did not pay too much attention to those mighty divine beasts, but fixed her gaze on the young man on the forehead of the colorful Rayquaza. Her face was dull, and her eyes were full of disbelief. This is impossible. Cynthia looked shocked, because she never thought that Yichun would be him. Boom. At this time, the list of gods is still running. The terrifying picture and power clearly conveyed to everyone's mind. No one knew the reaction of Cynthia in Sinnoh region. People were completely attracted by the picture. With the appearance of a group of legendary mythical beasts, the mixed and full of rage's aura of power occupied the heavenly palace, and everyone's minds were extremely nervous. There was no conversation, no exclamation, and everyone at this time was waiting with bated breath. At this moment, even the passage of time has become much slower. Boom. I don't know how long it took, and a loud noise suddenly exploded in everyone's mind. As if the horn of war sounded, many world-shattering mythical beasts moved in full force at this moment. Dialga, use Roar of Time. Palkia, use Spatial Rend. Radias, use Dragon Pulse. One after another voice entered everyone's mind. Above the colorful Rayquaza's forehead, the young man was calmly issuing instructions. And as the sound of each of his words fell, the corresponding divine beasts would cooperate in the first place, and the speed was as fast as if they were one body. And in such a scene, no one would care about this terrifying cooperation, and everyone was shocked by the scene. The azure blue ball of light flashes with infinite light, and the terrifying aura that blooms seems to be able to destroy everything. The dark purple moon arc, which is taller than the mountains, swept out, and wherever it passed, countless cracks appeared in the space, as if it was torn apart by life. The might of divine beasts shakes the heavens and the earth, not to mention so many divine beasts attacking at the same time. The terrifying aura of power filled every inch of the area between heaven and earth, and the violent airflow was enough to tear apart everything that approached. In the mountains below them, the trees fell and the gravel flew. Looking around, there were several more abyss-like cracks on the ground, and as these terrifying moves swept across the sky, everyone just felt that the vision in front of them suddenly pulled up towards the heights. It was at this moment that they finally saw the enemy that this mythical beast army was facing. It was a piece of haze, a piece of fog that enveloped half of the world, and it was so dark that it seemed to be able to absorb people's minds. At the moment of seeing that haze, an inexplicable fear rose in everyone's heart. So, what is that? Isn't their opponent Pokemon? What a weird mist. I feel like I'm about to be sucked in. Someone screamed in shock, with fear in their eyes, and instinctively took a step back. Especially those in the champion arena, who are closer to the gods and feel the most real, can't even control their bodies at this time, and start to tremble unconsciously. Steven and Mickley were among the group, and although they were far calmer than ordinary people, their reactions weren't much better. Especially Steven, in order to track meteorites, he has traveled almost all over the horizon over the years, and his knowledge is far beyond ordinary people. But the moment he saw that haze, he couldn't help but have a lot of fear and doubts in his heart. What's this? A special form of Pokemon? Steven frowned, and while he was still thinking, on the screen, those attacks that could destroy the world and fell into haze. Infinite haze rolled and galloped, and then it split into several groups to meet those attacks. Looking closely, there seems to be an extremely vague figure in the haze. Although it is not real, it can be confirmed that it exists. It was not pure haze, but a special existence that enveloped haze. I saw one of the groups of haze arrived in front of Spatial Rend in an instant, and I didn't know what to do, and the endless black thunder poured out. Those thunderbolts were like chains, each with the thickness of several people hugging each other, forming a huge net in front of the mountain-sized spatial rend. After Yakong Lai Xian, who could even open the space, came into contact with the giant net, it stagnated strangely, and then terrifying shock waves erupted, rippling around. At the same time, several other figures also displayed various strange methods, and they blocked the attacks of those divine beasts. The terrifying fluctuations raged in the air, and even if there was no skill at all, it made everyone sluggish. This is the ultimate collision of power. What are those things in haze? Is this the battle of gods? If it weren't for the image, this shock wave alone would be enough to destroy us. Space cracked. Oh my god. Is this going to destroy the world? In the champion arena, countless people were trembling and their eyes were full of terror. This level of power confrontation is far beyond their cognition. At this time, Lance, Professor Oak and others who were also immersed in this scene also opened their mouths wide, their faces full of shock. Is this the power of the beast? Lance murmured, not caring about his gaffe at this time. Even as the champion, he had fought against the suppressed Mutuo, and he couldn't imagine such a terrifying battle scene in front of him. It was just the aftermath of the battle that gave him a feeling of shattering. Beside him, Professor Oak, who gradually recovered, shook his head solemnly. This is probably just a test. Looking at the appearance of Mr. Yi Chen's mythical beasts, it is obvious that they have not used their full strength, and the real battle has not yet begun. How is this possible? Hearing this, Lance's expression suddenly tightened. The few moves just now, each of which is so powerful that it is unimaginable, is enough to destroy the world, but you told me it was just a test? He can't believe it, but Professor Oak is a leading figure in Pokemon research. Although his strength may be inferior, his vision is far superior to him. Thinking of this, Lance suddenly shuddered and cast the screen to the heavenly palace. Yi Chen, the young man, was still standing on the forehead of the colorful Rayquaza at this time. Behind him, the super demon Hoopa, who had topped the psychic rankings, still did not move, just stared at the haze with cold eyes. Hiss! Lance suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air, and the shock and fear in his eyes became more intense. And found this, as well as the elite champions of each region and the high-level forces of various parties. At Team Rocket's headquarters, Giovanni was sitting in a chair, his index finger was constantly stirring the table, and the extremely fast frequency indicated his inner unrest. With so many powerful mythical beasts, if there is no Mutuo, no, even if Mutuo is captured, as long as the other party is willing, I am afraid that the entire Team Rockets can be wiped out in an instant. Yi Chen, who are you? In the Kalos region, Diantha's chest rose and fell rapidly, her breathing was short, and she was obviously greatly shocked. Divine Beast, the power is completely unstoppable by ordinary Pokemon. What the hell are those hazes? They can resist so many mythical beasts. Even if she is as elegant as her, it is difficult to maintain her composure at this moment. It was at this moment that a deafening roar suddenly came out from the screen released by the God List, which woke her up. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 58. Chapter 58. The God List Invalid. The battle is still going on. After resisting the first round of attacks or temptations, the existences in those groups of haze did not sit idle, but flew towards the colorful Rayquaza for the first time. Their target was Yi Chen standing above Rayquaza's head. The shocking roar that appeared just now was Rayquaza's voice. It is irritated by the actions of these beings. Yi Chen is its outrage, and no existence can violate it. Not only it, but also the mythical beasts guarding Yi Chen were all furious, roaring, and violent power surged out. However, because they didn't get Yi Chen's order, they all pressed down and didn't shoot. On the other hand, Yi Chen, who was standing above Rayquaza's head, still remained calm at this time, and he couldn't see the slightest panic, as if everything was under control. Hoopa, use an interdimensional wormhole. The clean voice came out again. Everyone who felt this scene froze in their hearts. The existence of the quasi-creation level is about to take action. I saw the young man, the behemoth behind Yi Chen, suddenly moved, his pupils burst into a purple light, and then the 6 dangling arms converged in front of him at the same time. A dark purple light quickly formed, and then grew stronger. The black clouds above the sky are rolling violently, and a terrifying vortex is vaguely formed. The dome covering this area slowly rotates. With the formation of the dark purple light group in front of the super demon Hoopa, a huge dark void actually began to appear out of thin air, appearing in front of the haze groups. Unparalleled suction pours out from it, to devour those existences. Haze rolled, and those existences reacted extremely quickly. They abandoned Yi Chen at the first moment and hurriedly retreated to the rear, and a dazzling black light erupted at the same time. Several auras rose into the sky, and then condensed an incomparably huge dark black light group in the Tiangong, exuding a pure aura of destruction. After a while, the light group flew towards the different dimensional wormhole. After the wormhole that was enough to devour everything was touched, there was a sudden loud noise, and countless black and purple thunderbolts came out. Like the end of the world, where the black and purple thunders passed, the landslide shattered and the trees turned to ashes. The entire mountain range was completely disintegrated at this moment. The lush trees were turned into powder and fly ash, and there were countless terrifying cracks like spider webs on the ground. Some areas even began to collapse, and billowing lava flowed out. Looking around, just the aftermath of this blow turned the area of Hoenn dozens of miles into a dead place. Before everyone had time to be startled, Yi Chen's voice came out again above the sky. "Hoopa, it's over to you." An inexplicable remark made everyone stunned. Curum of the Way. Use Cross Lightning. Colorful Rayquaza. Use Dragon Ascent. Ultimate Necrozma. Use Prism Lasers. A series of instructions were issued. As the super demon god Hoopa waved his arms, the golden rings that were originally on his wrists flew out in unison and then floated in front of the beasts. The golden ring rapidly enlarged, and a layer of colorful halo appeared in the center. After passing through the halo, the moves of those divine beasts were suddenly multiplied by several times, and then they all moved towards those hazes in the distance. This time, all the divine beasts launched an attack. There are even many existences that many people have never even heard of. A red flame shot up into the sky, reflecting the entire Tiangong, as if it was about to burn through the heavens and the earth, and even the black clouds in the Tiangong turned red at this moment. A purple-red light swept across the sky. The rumbling sound was deafening. Even the space was shattered, and countless cracks appeared. Attacks with unimaginable power flew out one after another, and the power contained in them turned the entire mountain range into coke, and all the trees and rocks disappeared, turning into a bare piece. Everyone was horrified, speechless by this scene. Such a terrible attack, but the whole world could be destroyed. Under Yi Chen, the quasi-creation level colorful Rayquaza burst out with endless green light all over its body, illuminating the heavenly palace, and with a thunderous dragon roar, it suddenly rushed out, its entire body like a sharp sword. The black clouds above the sky are rolling more and more violently. The rumbling sounds are endless, and there are continuous thunderstorms, but compared to the terrifying attacks below, they are still only insignificant. The earth cracked and sank, the space was shattered, and terrifying cracks stretched across the sky. The end of the world is just that. On the opposite side of these attacks, within the pitch-black haze, black and purple thunders also emerged one after another, like countless sharp blades, overwhelming the sky. For Flowers, wherever he went, the world trembled. Although it was only a fictional influence, everyone felt the endless destructive power contained in it. Even just one of them is enough to turn a city into fly ash in an instant, but now there are thousands of them. The attacks of the two sides converged, and a shocking force erupted. The speed of space collapse continued to accelerate, and the ground below had long been beaten into powder, and more lava was exposed on the surface. Is this going to destroy the whole world? My God, commanding so many divine beasts to do their best, is this Mr. Yi Chen really human? At this moment, the shock in everyone's heart has turned into doubt and fear. This is a terrifying force that is enough to destroy the world, and it has far exceeded everyone's cognition. It can be seen from the changes in the area where the battle took place. Everything that can be seen with the naked eye was turned into powder under the aftermath of the attack, and even the space was torn apart. Not to mention ordinary people, even existences like Lance showed panic at this moment. God battle? No. This can already be called a world annihilation battle. What did Mr. Yi Chen encounter? Sinnoh region, Unova region, Kalos region. At this moment, the elite champions of the major regions, including the leaders of the underground forces, only felt cold sweat. At this time, they felt what is called the power above everything. At the same time, what terrified them was the power of Haze. In the face of the attacks of so many top-notch beasts, Haze was able to compete with them. In the picture, the attacks of the two sides have completely collided, and the terrifying aftermath is frantically destroying everything between heaven and earth. Even this picture seemed to be affected, and it began to vibrate and flicker violently, as if the power recorded in the picture exceeded its endurance limit. As the aftermath of the battle continued to intensify, the picture began to gradually darken and finally turned into pitch blackness. Before everyone could even react, the scene in front of them suddenly collapsed like a broken mirror and then disappeared. Godlist, it failed for the first time. P.S. I just got home today, and things are finally settled. I will try to update as much as possible today. I will resume the update tomorrow and will make up for what I owe for the past 2 days. Thank you, readers, for your silent support. No. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 59. What's the situation? The God ranking actually collapsed? Suddenly pulled back to reality from you. Everyone froze in place. After a while, some people gradually came back to their senses, and then some unbelievable probes glanced around. Soon, they were completely determined. The picture of the gods list has really dissipated. That battle was only halfway through, and this kind of endless battle was completely inconsistent with the style of the gods, but it all really happened. In the final battle between the many mythical beasts and the existence of the haze, even if it is omnipotent, it is difficult to bear the aftermath of such a terrifying battle, and it is impossible to reproduce the previous picture. Thinking of this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, only to feel cold all over their bodies. How powerful are those hazes, and Mr. Chen? Is this still the god list that I know of random fragments of the law? It actually collapsed? Outrageous. Outrageous. It's not the problem of the gods. It's that the battle of gods is too terrifying. It's going to destroy the world. I'm afraid that all of us will go together, and it's not enough to be cannon fodder. In the champion arena, the group of people who were closest to the battle of gods and felt the most real were still immersed in the terrifying picture presented by the previous god list. The mountain was shattered, the space was torn apart, and the magma in the depths of the ground flowed recklessly, just like a doomsday scene. Not to mention a group of ordinary people, even Stephen, who has always regarded himself as a well-informed person, was horrified at this time. Is that kind of power beyond the tolerance range of the gods? What a terrifying fight. I can even feel Milotic's fear. Only this kind of battle can be called the real battle of the gods by 617 ? Besides Stephen, me Pity Eye was staring at a pokeball that was shaking constantly in his hand, and the waves were also turning over in his heart. Destroying the world and shattering the gods list, the power of this kind of power has already exceeded the scope of human comprehension. Plasma Group, and silently looked at the place where the previous influence disappeared, and at the same time as his heart was horrified, he couldn't help but have a little doubt. In the amazing lineup just now, he didn't see Zekrom and Sheila Ram, only a very similar existence to them. Even if he felt a familiar aura in that existence, he was unable to distinguish it, and could only vaguely perceive that the three were related. Mr. Yichun, how many secrets do you have? N was difficult to speak, but at this time, Kuei-Chi-Si, who was also in the plasma group, was hanging on his scepter, and his arms were shaking. At this moment, he completely realized how ridiculous his once thought was. Even if he has been trying to control the divine beast, and then use the power of the divine beast to take over the world, the goal is nothing but the existence of Zekrom and Shirai Ram. All of his grand ideals seemed incomparably small in front of the scene just now. The kind of power that overrides everything, even if he is as calm as him, it is difficult to calm down at this time. This person must not be provoked, not even a little thought. Damn. How can there be such an existence in the world? What other haze? Chi-Si quickly paced back and forth in the room, constantly talking to himself, looking a little weird. And the same scene also happened in the major underground organizations. All those who had ever thought about Yichen only felt chills all over the body at this time. Under the ultimate power, all plans seemed stupid and ridiculous. At this time, there was only one idea left in their minds. In any case, you must befriend the existence in the picture, namely Yichen. Team Magma, Team Aqua recalled all team members at the first time, and various ongoing tasks were put aside. The same goes for Team Rockets. Inside the headquarters, Giovanni hurriedly picked up the communication equipment. Immediately, mobilize everyone to look for Mr. Yichun, based on the images shown on the previous god list. Remember, no matter what happens, nothing can happen to affect Mr. Yichen's impression of Team Rockets. Bring back those who are looking for Mutewo's trail first. This matter is the highest priority. After explaining all this, Giovanni breathed a sigh of relief, slumped on the chair, and recalled the scene just now. At this moment, A picture suddenly appeared in his mind. It also appeared in all the minds of the world. First place? Trainer. Chen reward. Law crystal, condensed from the ultimate power of law, which can help the hand beasts to break through their own limits. Evaluation on the list. Extraordinary, overwhelming. Number 1 was born. Even if everyone knew it for a long time, after seeing these lines, they still took a deep breath. Extraordinary peak, overpowering the world. Is this the recognition of Mr. Chen by the gods? Hey, Law Yuanjing, this is the first time this kind of reward has appeared on the list of gods. Certified by the God list, Mr. Chen is really the number 1 trainer in the world. Isn't anyone as curious as me? What the hell are those hazes? How can they produce so many mythical beasts with Mr. Chen? I want to know what happened to the battle of the gods now. Damn God list. This kind of battle is only half. Some were shocked and admired, while others were puzzled and curious. This level of battle, most people have never had the chance to see it in their entire life. Although they have seen it now, they don't know the ending. Naturally, everyone is itchy, but there is nothing they can do. After all, they all know that what happened before is that the terrifying fighting power cannot be reproduced even with the power of the gods. In this case, everyone can only guess the ending by themselves. Mr. Chen has so many divine beasts, and even a quasi-create level battle. He must have won in the end. I can't tell. Those hazes are so weird. I just look like I'm going to be sucked in. Although I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not simple. Yeah, have you seen the last black thunderbolts in haze? I'm afraid it only takes one, and our city will be destroyed. People from all over the world are talking about the outcome of the war at this moment, and as for those top forces, they all started to act. Team Magma, Team Aqua, Team Rockets, and the Plasma Corps came out one after another, looking for the young man who appeared on the screen. The top management of the Pokemon Alliance and the elite champions rushed back to the Alliance headquarters for a meeting as usual as soon as the screen ended. The huge conference room was full, and everyone's expressions were extremely serious. And the theme of this meeting is naturally only one. About the young man who appeared on the screen. That is Chen. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Damn Allen, who was in the first place, coughed lightly. Everyone, you must have already experienced the battle scene just now. In addition to Mr. Chen's strength once again exceeded our expectations, there is a problem that we must figure out as soon as possible. What are those hazes who fought against Mr. Chen? Damalanki's voice was very deep, echoing in the conference room, making the hearts of all the senior leaders of the Alliance tense. In fact, they have long thought about this issue. Different from ordinary people, although they were equally shocked by the terrifying power displayed by Chen, what they cared about more was the weird haze that was enough to compete with many mythical beasts. Everyone, look at me, I look at you. All of them frown, and they can't come up with any reasonable inferences. No one has ever seen that kind of haze. Haze, who can devour people's hearts and fight against divine beasts, is beyond their comprehension. I suggest to divide the forces in the Alliance into 2 parts for now. One part is responsible for looking for Mr. Chen's trace, and the other part is to investigate those hazes. Lance spoke in a deep voice. His eyes swept across the crowd. I agree. Stephen took the lead. Looking for Mr. Chen is important, but everyone must have seen the power of haze. That is enough power to destroy the world. If you don't figure it out, the whole world will be in crisis. I agree. Mickley nodded. He was also at the Champions Arena, and he knew the horror of haze far more than anyone else there. That kind of power is definitely the biggest crisis for the entire Alliance, and even the entire human race. After all, they didn't know what the final result of that battle would be. If Chen won, it would be better to say. If it was another ending, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just when everyone was extremely worried, a voice suddenly came out. That was Cynthia's voice. Everyone, I'm afraid it's difficult for us to investigate the origin of that piece of haze. If I'm not mistaken, that battle should have happened tens of thousands of years ago. Also, I already know who Mr. Chen is. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the room was shocked. The huge conference room fell silent in an instant, and needles could be heard falling. All eyes were on Cynthia in an instant. Seeing the shocked expressions on everyone's faces, Cynthia didn't wait for them to ask, and when she was about to go to Dianyuan Mountain, she said everything she had discovered in it. The statue of the ancient Super King? From existence tens of thousands of years ago? It's the same as Chen's first growth? In the conference room, Lance, Damn Allen, and other high-level Pokemon Alliance leaders frowned. What Cynthia said was too horrifying. If it weren't for the latter's identity, If someone else said it, they probably wouldn't believe it. Could it be that they simply look alike? Professor Oak spoke in a deep voice and raised a possibility. Everyone nodded in agreement. I think so too. After all, the time doesn't match. Mr. Yi Chen is just a human being. How could he have existed tens of thousands of years ago? Maybe it's a descendant, and it's very likely that they look similar. All the high-ranking members of the Alliance said each and every one of you, but Cynthia was unmoved, but shook her head firmly with a solemn expression. Impossible. I would like to guarantee in the name of Champion, that kind of temperament, that pair of eyes, I will never forget in my life. The statue of the Super King is definitely Mr. Yi Chen. If you don't believe it, go to Dinyuan Mountain in person to see it later. Not only that, Cynthia paused and looked at Lance opposite. I even suspect that even the dragon envoy that Lance mentioned before is likely to be Mr. Yi Chen. What? How can this be? A stone stirred up 1,000 waves. Cynthia's voice just fell, and the whole conference room suddenly sounded a breath of cold air. Everyone just felt chills down their spines. Dare to use Champion's name as a guarantee is enough to show how confident Cynthia is. If Yi Zhenchen is the ancient king of superpowers, or the dragon envoy, doesn't it mean that he has survived for tens of thousands of years? Is this really still human? Everyone was horrified, but Cynthia continued with a calm expression. In fact, this is not completely incomprehensible. According to the records of the ancient superpower king in the ruins of Dinyuanshan, it is an existence that can conquer the psychic divine beast with its own psychic. This kind of existence itself is enough to compare with gods, and even the level of life is different. Even if it survives for tens of thousands of years, it is not impossible. Following her explanation, although the stormy seas once again turned up in the hearts of everyone, after careful consideration, this is indeed the truth. From the appearance of Yi Chen's name in their sight, all the information revealed is not comparable to that of ordinary people. 2.1. If Yi Chen is the same as these people here, how can there be so many mythical beasts to follow? For an existence that is unreasonable in itself, all unreasonable things naturally become reasonable. The meeting room remained silent for a long time. All present are elite champions from major regions, the top executives of the Alliance, and they are not generalists. After doing a good job of psychological construction and accepting this, the next topic will return to normal. They have a lot more to know. Why on earth did this battle happen, and what was there in those hazes? That is enough to threaten the comfort of the entire Pokemon world, just like a hidden bomb. If you don't figure it out, everyone will be sleepless. It's a pity, even if everyone racked their brains and mobilized all the resources of the Alliance, it was difficult to find any clues in a short period of time. Ancient records and various relic materials did not mention any information related to that kind of haze, as if it did not exist at all. In desperation, the Alliance can only choose to put the matter on hold for the time being. This kind of ancient secret cannot be reached overnight. With the unanimous agreement of many elite champions, the behemoth of the Pokemon League has also begun to operate after the underground organizations such as Team Rockets. After it was determined that Yi Chen existed for tens of thousands of years, this time, the main focus of the Alliance was on the excavation of ancient ruins, trying to find out more information about Yi Chen and that haze. Emperor Tian paid off, and it didn't take long for a piece of news to come from the Kanto region. During the excavation of an ancient ruin, information about Yi Chen appeared. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 60. Chapter 60. With one's own power, pacify the troubled world. Yi Chen's importance within the entire Pokemon League has jumped to unbelievable levels as the reappearance of the pinnacle leaderboard stuns the world. Almost as soon as the news came out, the top leaders of the Pokemon Alliance, such as Lance, Professor Oak, and Damalanki, put down everything in their hands and rushed to the Kanto region. It didn't take long for them to arrive at Pewter City in the northwest of the Kanto region. This is a city that rests at the foot of a huge rocky mountain, and the ancient ruins discovered this time are in the Endless Mountains. It was a deeply buried cave, with a strange altar in the center of the cave, surrounded by many murals. The staff of the Pokemon Alliance have completed the preliminary excavation work, and the entire cave has basically been cleared out. Professor Rowan was also urgently dispatched from the Sinnoh region to interpret the messages on the murals. After Damalanki and others entered it, they quickly attracted everyone's attention. President. Everyone saluted respectfully. Damalin nodded symbolically and hurried to Rowan Professor with Lance and others. Professor Rowan, how's it going? In his capacity, generally speaking, he would not personally come to such newly excavated ruins. but the information related to Chen had a lot to do with it. For the current Pokemon League, nothing is more important. Professor Rowan did not look back, but pointed to the mural in front of him. It has been basically confirmed that the records above are about the past of the super ancient times. Thanks to the relics discovered before, our translation work has been much faster, and it has been basically sorted out now. As he spoke, he turned and led the crowd to the first mural at the entrance of the cave, and began to explain the contents recorded on it. This is about the Mycen of the ultra-ancient times. Legend has it that order was not established long ago. In order to compete for territory, the 13 types of humans and humans fought and killed each other, and later Pokemon was also involved. The whole world is covered in smoke of gunpowder. It was a long period of dark turmoil, blood was flowing on the ground, and the sound of howling and whining was everywhere. That period of time did not know how long it lasted until the appearance of a God-chosen person. The person chosen by God is the terminator of the Dark Age. He subdued the legendary gods for his own use by unimaginable means. With the stalwart power beyond the imagination of the world, he single-handedly calmed down the entire chaotic world. Not only that, but later Pokemon trainers were created by him. Hearing this, Damalanki and others were shocked and speechless. To calm down the dark and troubled times of ancient times by oneself? What kind of means is needed to achieve this? The profession of Pokemon trainer was created by him. Isn't that the ancestor of all our trainers? I've studied Pokemon for so many years, and this is the first time I've heard of this existence, Professor Oak muttered, horrified. He has spent all his life researching various Pokemon, and always thought that Pokemon trainers were created by the gradual promotion of the times. But he never thought that all of this was actually the credit of one person. Professor Rowan was not at all surprised by their reaction. He also had the same reaction when he first obtained the information, and just continued talking on his own. The chosen person, after pacifying the dark turmoil and creating the profession of Pokemon trainer, set out to create a super ancient Pokemon alliance to facilitate the governance of the world. According to the records on the frescoes, under the rule of the super ancient Pokemon alliance, the Pokemon world of the super ancient period was completely liberated from the turmoil and gradually became prosperous. And the name of the person chosen by God is Chen. Professor Rowan looked at everyone. As he expected, when the words came out, whether it was Damalangi, Lance, or Professor Oak and Cynthia, all of them were shocked. You say he created the ultra-ancient Pokemon League? Chen, God's chosen one. The Pokemon Alliance has always been established in the way of the Super Ancient Alliance. If this is the case, isn't Chen the first president of our alliance? Several people felt their brains buzzing at this time. Although Professor Rowan's remarks were only a few sentences, the amount of information contained in them was too huge to be digested for a while. God's chosen one. In the dark and turbulent super ancient times, he suppressed the whole world with his own power and calmed down the turmoil, created the profession of Pokemon trainer, and established a super ancient alliance. Anyone taken out alone is a discovery that shocked the whole world, enough for them to digest for a long time. But now it comes out all at once, and it is the same person. A man who has shocked them countless times. When Chen's name initially occupied the Dragon list, although they were equally shocked, they just regarded him as a top powerhouse who was not born. Even if the peak rankings are released, and they have seen that kind of terrifying battle, they have only deepened this idea a lot. But now, the meaning of the discovery of this information is not the same. In their hearts at this time, Chen was like an invincible abyss, with no end in sight. The more in-depth understanding, the more terrifying and unfathomable. These deeds alone are far beyond the limit that ordinary people can imagine. In addition to being shocked, the hearts of everyone could not help but give birth to a bit of admiration. This is respect from the bottom of my heart. If it weren't for Mr. Chen, the dark and troubled times would not end. Yeah, without Mr. Chen, I'm afraid even Pokemon trainers would not exist, let alone our entire Pokemon League. Lance took a deep breath and opened his mouth, and the whole person was in awe. Judging from the expression on the fresco alone, it is not an exaggeration to call the chosen person, Chen, the savior of the world. If it were not for him, I am afraid there would not be the prosperity of the peaceful coexistence of human Pokemon today. He is the founder of the present world and the founder of the identity of the trainer. Everyone's eyes converged on the vaguely blurred figure on the mural, and their eyes were full of respect and emotion, as well as a bit of joy. Chen is the founder of the ultra-ancient Pokemon Alliance. To a certain extent, he can be regarded as the real first president of the Pokemon Alliance, and he has some connections with them. Originally, We were still having a headache on how to express goodwill after finding Mr. Yi Chun and pull him into the alliance. Now, it seems that this step should be saved. Alan stroked his large white beard and was very pleased. He has never valued fame and fortune. As long as he can find Yi Chun, he is naturally willing to give up his position as soon as possible. In this way, with the strong support of Yi Chun, the Pokemon Alliance will definitely be able to better maintain the development of the world. Professor Oak and others also thought of this, and their eyes were full of joy. However, before they could be happy for a long time, a rapid beeping sound rang out. It was a communicator for the Pokemon Alliance, and it meant there was an emergency. Alan didn't dare to neglect. He answered the answer quickly, and after a while, his complexion sank. President, what happened? Lance frowned. It's the Team Rockets guys. The person in charge of the surveillance found the trail of their mass dispatch, and it seems that they are going to capture Mutuo. What? Lance was shocked. We must not let them succeed. I have personally experienced the power of Mutuo. If it falls into their hands again, the consequences will be disastrous. Well, it's not too late. We'll set off immediately. We must get ahead of them. Alan had a worried look in his eyes. He didn't delay any longer, and quickly left the place with a few people, rushing towards the location mentioned in the news. Meanwhile, Hoenn region, on an island off the coast. Giovanni stood on the top of a hill and looked at the members of Team Rockets who were in full swing below, with a look of joy that could not be concealed in his eyes. I originally wanted to put aside the search for Mutuo, but I didn't expect that the people below accidentally found the cave where Mutuo was hiding. Is this God's will? He muttered to himself, and then unconsciously glanced at his waist. Intentionally planting flowers will not bloom, inadvertently planting willows and willows. After seeing the battle, he hopes more and more to establish a relationship with the person named Yi Chun, so he focuses on finding the other side's traces and puts Mutuo on hold for the time being. But now that Mutuo has been delivered to his door, it is naturally impossible for him to ignore it. Because of Mutuo, he was able to face the Pokemon League with ease. This is his biggest trump card. In order to capture Mutuo smoothly, this time Team Rockets came out in full force and also brought a secret weapon that can control Mutuo, which will never fail. Giovanni's eyes twinkled, and he didn't go down until everyone below was ready. The cadres of Team Rockets gathered beside him and walked towards a cave that was surrounded by many people. In the pitch-dark cave, the sound of water droplets falling from the depths could be vaguely heard. Other than that, there was no movement at all. Team Rockets arranged the prepared light sources around, and it didn't take long for them to reach the deepest part of the cave. This is an extremely huge space, as if the entire mountain was hollowed out. In the middle of this space, a group of blue light was quietly floating there, and a white figure could be vaguely seen through the light. Mutuo seeing that figure, Giovanni suddenly became excited, waved his hand, and a kind of Team Rocket's cadre and superiors suddenly dispersed spontaneously, surrounding the blue light. Come out, Golem! Come out, Houndoom! Come out, Weezing! As the red rays of light lit up in the hole, a group of Pokemon from Superior were summoned out and looked at Mutuo in the air with murderous intent. At the same time, the faint blue light on the curled Mutuo body gradually dissipated. It felt threatened and woke up from its slumber. After seeing the people surrounding him, as well as the familiar Giovanni, his eyes suddenly filled with monstrous murderous intent. A terrifying aura instantly swept the audience, and the entire mountain swayed at this moment, and gravel and dust continued to fall from the air. This is the unique power of the beast. With the awakening of Mutuo, under the pressure, including the ace Pokemon of the Team Rockets cadres, all the Pokemon in the arena fell into an instinctive fear, constantly retreating to the rear, and the desire to attack in their eyes also changed, became fear. Snapped, snapped, snapped. After seeing this scene, Giovanni not only did not show the slightest anger, but clapped his hands leisurely, his eyes full of approval. It is the most perfect masterpiece of my life. This is the imposing manner that a divine beast should have. Even if he is seriously injured, 617 is not something that these ordinary Pokemon can match. It's a pity that you didn't grow up according to the ideas I instilled, and you shouldn't rebel against me. At the end, Giovanni's voice suddenly became cold, and then he hooked his fingers to the back. Although he had received information long ago, Mutuo was seriously injured and his strength was not as strong as before, but it was far from what ordinary Pokemon could deal with. And the reason why he dared to swagger into the cave was because he was naturally prepared. But after a while, several Team Rockets members came over with a precision instrument and a set of armor. This is the latest research from Team Rockets, and with this armor, even a greatly increased Mutwo will never be able to escape his control. As for that instrument, it was a genetic controller specially developed for Mutwo, which was much stronger than the original one, and could weaken Mutwo's strength to the greatest extent possible. With a snap of Giovanni's fingers, the instrument went into action. The invisible ripples oscillated and reverberated in this space. Mutwo's figure in midair trembled for a moment, and then Muron cried and bent down, pointing at his head. The aura blooming in his body was weakened several times in an instant. Right now, let's do it together. An immediate order from a Team Rockets cadre. Weezing, use the Grimer to pop the eggs. Houndum, use Jet Flame. Galbot, use Swift. A series of orders were issued one after another, and in the huge mountain space, dozens of attacks converged, and they all moved towards Mutwo in midair. Resisting the violent cry in his mind, Mutwo barely stood up, looked at the attacks around him with a rage expression, and then stuck out a hand. The blue light lingered around, and a huge barrier was formed in an instant, protecting it within it. However, it was originally seriously injured because of the battle, and coupled with the influence of the genetic controller, its power was weakened countless times. The barrier formed by the confusion only lasted for an instant, and then shattered. In desperation, it had to shoot again. A blue beam of light blazed out. With its original peak strength, with just one blow, it is difficult for the third-level divine beast to compete, but now it is instantly suppressed by those joint attacks. Dozens of attacks smacked down it directly from the air, and then slammed into the rock wall, sputtering a pile of gravel dust. Giovanni watched this scene with a look of satisfaction, and then waved his hand again. Almost, just keep it under control. Yes. Several cadres responded and walked over with the armor. At this moment, a terrifying white light suddenly rushed out from the hole behind him. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 61. This White On was coming very fast, and fortunately, the several Team Rockets cadres were also superiors in the superior, and they flew out to the side immediately. Although the few of them were able to escape the blow and barely save their lives, the white light fell on the suit of armor that Giovanni was planning to control Mutwo. Although it is a special armor, it is always a precision instrument. Even if it is not completely destroyed by this blow, it still flashes the arc of lightning. Obviously, some components have been destroyed. After seeing this scene, Giovanni's eyes suddenly flashed with anger, and then he looked towards the back hole. A series of rapid footsteps came, but within a short time, more than 10 people arrived here. Lance. Seeing the young man with red hair in front and a cape behind him, the anger in Giovanni's eyes was even more intense. Damn, how come these Pokemon Alliance guys are here? His thoughts turned sharply, his eyes swept away, and after seeing several other figures, his heart sank again. The one who just shot was Lance's Ace Dragonite, which once occupied a very high ranking in the Dragon rankings, and has now advanced to the third-level Divine Beast. In addition to this, Pokemon Alliance President Demolanki also came, as well as Sinnoh Region Champion, Cynthia, and Lorelei and Bruno, who are also one of the 4 elites of Kanto. The rest are also superior beings within the Pokemon Alliance. This lineup is enough to be called luxurious. Even if Team Rockets almost came out this time around, it would be difficult to deal with. Especially Lance's Ace Dragonite. Giovanni's eyes flashed with coldness, and he made a decision in a moment, and turned to look at several Team Rockets cadres around him. Stop them no matter what, and never let them in. While speaking, he turned his gaze to the other people. You guys, go and check the equipment, first control Mutwo. As long as Mutwo is there, these Pokemon Alliance people can't make a splash. Yes. The cadres and superiors of Team Rockets were all present, and they responded and acted very quickly, and they were divided into 2 groups in an instant. Several of the most powerful cadres gathered at the entrance of the cave with most of the superiors, all of them commanding their own Pokemon, and launched an attack on Lance and the others who were rushing in quickly. As for the remaining few people, they went to check the armor that was knocked into the air. Giovanni stood there with a calm expression and unconsciously put a hand to his waist pocket. Weezing, use the Mud Attack. Arbok, use Gunk Shot. Thornback, use Ice Beam. As the orders were issued, more than a dozen powerful attacks rushed towards the few people who were rushing towards the entrance of the cave. These are the superiors and cadres in Team Rockets. Each of them is extremely powerful, and many of them have reached the level of leader. On weekdays, few can fight against them. However, now their opponents are not ordinary people. Instead, as a champion, he is also one of the 4 elites, possessing the 3rd-level divine beast Dragonite. Lance. Dragonite. Use Hyper Beam. Lance's face was sinking like water, and he spoke coldly. In front of him, a sturdy, powerful Dragonite suddenly opened his mouth, and countless white particles were born out of thin air, and then gathered together. But after a while, a beam of light with a diameter of more than 1 meter rushed out. In the back, Lorelei and Bruno, who are also elite, showed no sign of making a move, just watching from the sidelines. They all know the strength of Lance's Ace Dragonite. In such a small space, simultaneous shots may interfere with each other, so it is better to let Lance solve it by himself. And the fact is as they expected. Champion's strength is revealed at this moment. As Lance's trump card, this Dragonite's strength is already extremely strong, and after being rewarded by the gods, it has successfully entered the 3rd-level God Beast. Even if the opponent is superior, a cadre of more than 10 Team Rockets, the 2 sides are not on the same level at all. The Hyper Beam, surging with fury, was like a sharp blade, shattering all oncoming attacks in an instant. The cadres of Team Rockets obviously did not expect such a scene, and their faces changed greatly. Not good, run away, comma. Several people hurriedly directed their Pokémon to dodge to one side. Even though their reaction was fast enough, there were still 2 Pokémons who couldn't dodge. They were hit by the Hyper Beam, rushed out, smashed hard on the ground more than 10 meters away, and then turned into red light and returned to their respective Pokeballs. Inside, the leader-level Pokémon, however, couldn't take a single blow and lost his ability to fight. Giovanni looked at this scene with a gloomy face, and then looked to the side. Several other Team Rockets members are checking the armor, and at this rate, it is impossible to control Mutwo before Lance and the others come in. The strength gap between the 2 sides is too great. Champion Elite appeared at the same time, especially the Dragonite who had stepped into the 3rd-level mythical beast. If there was no Mutwo, the entire Team Rockets would probably be wiped out. You forced me, a cold light flashed in Giovanni's eyes, ignoring the Hyper Beam whizzing past behind him. After hesitating for a moment, he immediately took out a Pokeball from his waist pocket. It was a translucent Pokeball with endless haze tumbling and surging, and it looked so eerie that it seemed to be able to suck people's minds into it. I didn't expect that I would use this in the end. Damn the Pokemon League, soon I'll make you pay. Seeing haze rolling inside the Pokeball in his hand, Giovanni's expression turned solemn. This is a Pokeball made from some kind of dark matter previously discovered by Team Rockets, which is still in the experimental stage and not fully finished. Although he brought it on this trip as a trump card, just in case, if someone from the Pokemon Alliance appeared and interfered with his plan, he would not use it easily. Different from ordinary Pokeball, this kind of Pokeball is extremely domineering and weird. Although it can force the control of Pokemon in it, it will also make it irrational, only know how to kill, and completely become a fighting machine. Given the alternative, he didn't want Mutwo to be like that. As the greatest achievement of his life, Mutwo's existence has far exceeded the world's cognition, and it is not just a clone. Comparable to the power of the beast, the self-independent thinking consciousness, this is the perfect creation. However, in the face of the aggressiveness of the Pokemon Alliance, this is the only way out for him at present. Otherwise, Team Rockets will be swept away. Giovanni only hesitated for a brief moment before throwing the pitch-black Pokeball out of his hand. When it flew into the air, the middle of the Pokemon suddenly split apart, but what rushed out of it was not a red light, but a dark fog like an abyss. The mist surged in the air, and soon covered Mutwo, who was seriously injured and fell to the ground. After a while, the mist shrank rapidly and returned to the Pokeball. Looking at the previous position, Mutwo's trace had long since disappeared, and it had obviously been included in the ball. Giovanni watched this scene expressionlessly, and immediately stepped forward, picked up Pokeball, and looked at it carefully. The inside of the ball is still pitch black. The only difference is that there is a little more invisible red light. Mutwo, Giovanni muttered to himself, and at this moment, another bang came from behind. Under the leadership of Lance, everyone in the Pokemon Alliance has already felt this mountain space. Including those cadres, everyone in Team Rockets has been defeated, and there are Pokemon who are seriously injured and incapacitated. This is the true strength of champion. Lance, who didn't hold back at all, commanded the Ace Dragonite, almost single-handedly destroying most of their Team Rocket's superior. Looking around, the Dragonite didn't even have the slightest scar on it, nor did it show any signs of exhaustion.
Snapped.
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 As expected of the champion of the Johto region, with your current strength, I am afraid you can already be the champion. At this time, Giovanni lost his previous solemnity and anger, but instead showed a smile, applauding and looking at Lance and the others who broke in. Hearing his voice, everyone's eyes suddenly converged. Giovanni. Lance snorted coldly, ignoring the latter's praise, and just said coldly, hand over Mutuo, if not, don't blame us for being rude. Huh, you're welcome? Then I really want to see it. You are indeed very strong, but you are a little young and energetic. You should learn more from the few people next to you. That's right, President Damalanki. Giovanni still had a smile on his face. Even when he was facing Lance, he was not afraid at this time. And after hearing what he said, Lance frowned. At the same time, Lorelei and Bruno behind him also took a step forward and summoned their respective ace Pokemon. The sense of oppression at the elite level instantly swept the audience. Giovanni didn't even look at him. His eyes were still on Damalen. The latter also cast his gaze in the past at this time, with a solemn expression. Giovanni, stop being obsessed. No matter what, we won't let you take control of Mutuo again. Hand it over, and I can promise as the president of the Pokemon Alliance to get you out of here. Will I catch me when I leave this island? You guys in the Pokemon Alliance still like to use this one. It's a pity. It's not certain who can't leave here safely today. Giovanni rolled his eyes, then raised his right hand, holding a pitch-black Pokeball in his palm. Since you value Mutuo so much, then I don't mind letting you know. The power of a true beast. A black light surged out of the Pokemon in his palm, and then fell in the middle of the two sides. The cold and violent aura instantly filled the entire mountain space, and the Pokemon of the superior alliances instinctively took a step back at this moment, with fear in their eyes. Even Lance's Dragonite became dignified at this time, staring at the group of haze. The black mist rolled and surged, and it took a long time to gradually dissipate, and a figure shrouded in it also appeared. It was Mutuo. However, the current Mutuo has changed a lot from the last time everyone saw it. Its body is covered with a layer of faint black light, which looks quite strange, and its pupils have turned into a blood-like dark red color. The violent aura continued to spread around it, and the entire mountain vibrated violently at this moment, as if it could not bear this power. This is Mutuo? Everyone in the Pokemon Alliance was shocked when they saw what Mutuo looked like now. Although the appearance has not changed much, the breath is completely different, more like a beast running out of control. In those scarlet pupils, they even felt Ling B's will to destroy. Giovanni, what have you done? Damalen spoke angrily, while Lance, who was beside him, took a step forward without looking and protected him behind him. Pressure, extremely powerful pressure. Even as a champion, his ace Dragonite has advanced to become a level 3 divine beast. At this time, Lance also began to worry in his heart. The breath that bloomed from Mutuo in front of me made me feel him. Wang Daijiao felt a strong sense of unease. This wasn't the Mutuo he had fought against. Although he had also fought against Mutuo, at that time Mutuo was limited in strength, and this one was at its peak. Most importantly, he felt the violent will from the latter, which seemed to destroy everything. You guys, take the president out of here first. Lorelei, Bruno, let's shoot together. Lance spoke in a low voice, but his eyes were still fixed on Mutuo in front of him, not daring to look away. Giovanni sneered at the corner of his mouth after seeing this scene. I'm thinking about leaving now. Don't you think it's too late? Mutuo, use Illusion Slash. Dragonite, use Thunder Wave. Almost as soon as Giovanni spoke, Lance's orders followed. Red's Mutuo stretched out a hand, and a ball of light flashing blue arcs instantly formed, and then flew towards the Pokemon Alliance. At the same time, several saffron-colored arcs spread out from Dragonite's body, and ripples rippled out, covering all areas in front of him. The two attacks collided in the central area, and the translucent white light instantly illuminated the entire mountain space like daylight. The terrifying shock wave raged, and several terrifying deep pits exploded on the ground in an instant. The rock wall shook violently at this moment, and countless gravel rolled down. This is a battle at the level of a beast, and it is simply not something this mountain can withstand. The shaking of the rock wall was still intensifying, and except for Lance, Lorelei, and Bruno, everyone else in the Pokemon Alliance rushed out of the cave for the first time. As for the members of Team Rockets, they were curled up in the depths of the mountain space, with panic written all over their faces. Under the collision of two terrifying forces, this mountain space is about to collapse. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 62. They are not fools either. Such a huge mountain, once collapsed, Giovanni, Lance and others have their own Pokemon shelter, naturally nothing to worry about. But their Pokemon have lost their ability to move in the previous battle. If the mountain collapses, they have only one way to die. Sokka, Boss Giovanni, someone swallowed and was about to speak, but found that a huge body had appeared in front of them. That's Giovanni's Pokemon, Golem. In fact, Giovanni had already thought of this as early as the beginning of the war. These people are the backbone of Team Rockets, and even if they don't get things done, he won't let them die in this place. After all, cultivating people who are loyal to themselves is not that simple. As Golem's two arms continued to wave, a passage was dug out of the rock wall, and the members of Team Rockets were able to leave the mountain space. The collision of extreme power continues. However, at this time, it has already been divided into high and low. Even though Dragonite has improved a lot from the last battle with Mutwo, it is still a third-level god, and it is still far worse than Mutwo. The thunder wave covering the entire area only played a slight blocking role in front of the Aura Sphere and could not completely stop it. After seeing this scene, Lorelei and Bruno couldn't sit still. Dugong, use Ice Beam. Jinx, use the Devil's Kiss. Macamp, use the Cross Hack. Onyx, use the Rolling Stones. One by one Pokemon was summoned and attacked together. Opposite them, Giovanni's face was not at all gathered. He is well aware of Mutwo's strength. This is the power beyond human understanding, the power of the real beast. The gap between the two sides cannot be filled with numbers. Mutwo, use Mind Sabotage. Following his order, a strong blue light burst out from Mutwo's body. The shaking frequency of the entire mountain increased several times at this moment, and pieces of huge rolling stones fell straight down from the air, smashing the ground out of deep pits. For a time, smoke and dust were everywhere. Under the influence of the terrifying spiritual confusion, the huge mountain finally reached its limit and collapsed suddenly. At this time, everyone who had already retreated to the outside world was watching this scene with a look of astonishment. The mountain, which was hundreds of meters high, completely collapsed in just a few seconds and turned into a rubble. The gravel splashed, and the smoke billowed up, straight to the heavenly palace. The huge movement even made the entire island move, as if earthquake. At the same time, somewhere in the world, a green light suddenly lit up in an extremely grand palace. Xiaoyang's dragon roar instantly resounded through the palace, and a terrifying aura swept away, covering the area of Hoenn for dozens of miles. Countless Pokemon fled in panic, and the mountains were instantly chaotic. After a while, I saw a green light rushing out of the palace, swaying up, and in the blink of an eye, it reached the clouds. If there are human beings here, they will be shocked by the scene in front of them. That green figure is exactly the colorful Rayquaza, who has occupied the dragon ranking and possesses quasi-creative strength. At this time, Rayquaza seemed extremely restless, flying around in the clouds, and then stopped after a while, and then looked at the sky in a certain direction. The pupils are full of surprise, and there is a little rage. How is this possible? It's their breath, but they were not captured by Yichun tens of thousands of years ago. Rayquaza's whole body is filled with powerful energy fluctuations, and with its emotional ups and downs, these fluctuations are several times stronger, but the surrounding clouds are scattered. This feeling can't be wrong. If they really are. A ruthless look flashed in Rayquaza's eyes, and without any hesitation, he turned into a green light and quickly moved towards the direction he was sensing. At this time, on the island where everyone from the Pokemon Alliance was, the dust was gradually dissipating. The collapsed mountain formed a huge pile of boulders. Damalin was about to lead the Alliance to rescue him, but a huge noise was heard. A blue light suddenly lit up, and then quickly covered every boulder. Soon, under the shocked eyes of everyone, countless boulders flew into the sky and then suspended. A few figures were also revealed below. Giovanni was protected by a blue barrier around him, and he was not damaged at all. As for Lance, Lorelei, and Bruno, they were also safe and sound under the protection of their respective Pokemons. For their existence at this level, although these disasters are terrifying, they are far from threatening their safety. Giovanni wasn't surprised at all, just snapped his fingers at Mutwo. Game over. Fix them. As the voice fell, the blue light on Mutwo's body suddenly became a little richer. Those boulders that flew high in the sky immediately smashed towards the three of Lance, and the extremely fast speed even brought out the sound of breaking through the air. Dragonite, use Dragon Dance. Lance looked solemn. I saw the Dragonite in front of him suddenly put on a few strange poses like dancing, and then the breath on his body suddenly began to skyrocket. Use twister. As Lance spoke again, a huge twister immediately rose from the ground, and then continued to expand, with a diameter of more than 10 meters in the blink of an eye. The terrifying storm began to rage in this area, and all kinds of gravel and dust on the island flew into the sky at this moment. Even the distant sea was affected. One after another giant waves rolled and whistled, like a giant beast roaring. The power of the third-level divine beast was fully revealed at this moment. Those boulders that fell from the heavenly palace were torn apart by the tornado, and then flew to the sea hundreds of meters away. After seeing this scene, Lance's face did not show the slightest joy. He knew very well that this was just the beginning. I saw Mutuo in the distance raised his arm again. A ball of light quickly formed, and immediately began to grow as countless particles converged. But in just a few breaths, the diameter of the light ball was more than 10 meters, and the power contained in it was even more terrifying to the point of unimaginable. So much so that the expressions of the three of Lance changed in unison. This is the true strength of Mutuo. After the ball of light had grown to a certain extent, Mutuo immediately pushed hard, and the ball of light flew towards everyone in the Pokemon Alliance. Boom! The power of the light ball is terrifying. Wherever he passed, the space was torn apart, and the ground was even more deeply driven by the ball of light. If this ball of light falls, it may be enough to raise half of the island to the ground. Everyone shot together. Lance spoke loudly, then took out several Pokeballs from his waist and released all his other Pokemon. Lorelei, Bruno, and other Pokemon Alliance superiors are also average. They all felt the tremendous pressure from the ball of light. As the red lights flickered, dozens of Pokemon suddenly appeared on the island, and at the same time, they used their most powerful skills. Hyper Beam, Supersonic, Shadow Ball, Ice Beam. For a time, dozens of attacks shot up into the sky, and Chi-Chi flew towards the huge ball of light. However, most of the attacks have not even touched the ball of light, and are quantified by the surging violence around it, and only a few top-level Pokemon can really affect it. The ball of light continued to fly, and then suddenly burst. In time, the entire island was submerged in blinding white light. The ground trembled and the waves roared. The aftermath of the terrifying power continued to spread far away, and the backbone members of Team Rockets on the other side of the island all fell down in horror, fearing that they would be affected by it. Although Giovanni, who was in the center of the battlefield, BDCB, was protected by Mutuo, he was still shocked by this terrifying power. After he recovered, his eyes were filled with surprise and madness. Dusk Ball can even increase Mutuo's power, and sure enough, our research efforts were not in vain. With this Mutuo, from now on, the Pokemon Alliance can't help me. As long as the person named Chen doesn't show up, I'm the master of the world. Perhaps because he was too excited, Giovanni's body was shaking slightly. The dazzling white light lasted for a few seconds before it began to gradually dissipate. In front of the powerful destructive force, a terrifying pit that occupies half of the island has already appeared in front of him. All the vegetation and rocks were vaporized, and the residual scorching heat distorted the air, like a doomsday scene. And in the center of this huge pit is full of seriously injured and unconscious Pokemon. At the moment when the light ball exploded, all the Pokemon protected the people of the Pokemon Alliance in the center and tried their best to resist. Although they escaped the disaster, they also completely lost their combat power. Including Lorelei and Bruno's ace Pokemon are also dying at this time. The only one who could barely stand still was Lance's Dragonite. However, the situation is not optimistic. The terrifying explosion made Dragonite's body full of shocking scars, and obviously he was seriously injured. Even if he could barely fight, it would be difficult to exert much strength. It can be said that this blow from Mutuo wiped out many superiors of the Pokemon Alliance. Looking at Lance and the others who were struggling to get up from the pit, the madness in Giovanni's eyes became more intense. See? This is the true power of Mutuo. You are not wrong to die in the hands of the most perfect masterpiece in my life. Ha 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 ha. He laughed twice, and his expression suddenly turned cold. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have to control Mutuo with the Dusk Ball. You people of the Pokemon Alliance, all day long, you only know how to maintain your so-called justice. Arrogant. You are the maggots of this world. Go die in peace. Without your obstacles, I will build a perfect world with a new order. Giovanni said word by word, then raised his hand. In front of him, a ball of light appeared in Mutuo's hand again, growing continuously under the convergence of particles. Everyone in the Pokemon Alliance turned their attention to Lance's Dragonite. After discovering the serious injury on the latter's body, the last glimmer of hope was shattered more and more, and his eyes were shrouded in despair. Even Damalanki, who has always been steady, sighed secretly at this time. It's my fault for being so negligent that Giovanni took control of Mutwo so quickly. President, it's not your fault. No one would have thought that Team Rockets would actually develop that kind of Pokeball. Lance spoke in a deep voice, and there was also a hint of despair in his eyes. Even if they were reluctant to admit it, they did lose. If it's just Team Rockets, with the strength of their team, they can easily deal with it. But no one thought that the other party had already controlled Mutwo. Not only that, Mutwo's power is stronger than ever. The Mutwo in front of me, let alone the few of them, even if they called the elite champions of the entire Pokemon League, they definitely couldn't be their opponents. They were not wrong to lose. The pattern of the world is about to change. Lance spoke bitterly and moved to the seriously injured Dragonite with difficulty. No matter what, even if they die here, they mustn't let them go, right? He patted Dragonite, who clearly understood what he said, nodded slowly, and then took a difficult fighting stance. Partner, let's work together again, Lance murmured, and then his eyes became firm, looking at Mutwo who was still gathering energy ahead. Just as he was about to fight to the death, a dragon roar resounding through the sky suddenly came from far away in the sky. The sound was so loud that it was hard not to pay attention to it even in the middle of a battle. For a time, everyone looked up at Tiangong. Even Mutwo paused the movements of his hands. Visible to the naked eye, at the end of the sky, there are endless black clouds that are rapidly surging. It was like a curtain covering the sky, but after a while, the originally clear sky turned gloomy. Black clouds surged, and a dull rumbling sound was accompanied by a thunderous flash of thunder from time to time. Just when everyone was shocked by this sudden and huge change, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly descended on this place. This breath was so powerful that even Mutwo's aura was suppressed in an instant. Even the surging and whistling waves around them calmed down strangely at this moment. Lance, Damalanki, including Giovanni, were all stunned at this moment, and then they showed shock. Today's Mutwo possesses the power of a first-level divine beast, and it is the best among them under the blessing of the Dark Ball. What existence can suppress its aura? Just when their hearts were shocked, a colorful light fell from the black cloud at the top of the sky dome. The huge head protruded from the black cloud and looked down at the island below like a god. After a while, its body gradually flew out of the cloud layer and finally suspended above the island. At the moment of seeing this figure, everyone took a deep breath. Especially Giovanni, his face turned pale in an instant. He recognized the figure. Quasi-creation level divine beast. Colorful Rayquaza. Impossible. How could it be here? Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 63. Not only him, Damalanki, Lance, and others also recognize this figure. The top of the dragon ranking. Yi-Chen's Pokemon who used to appear in the peak match. Could it be that Mr. Yi-Chen took the shot? Lance looked at each other with surprises written all over their faces. Other than that, they couldn't think of any more plausible explanations. As a quasi-creation level existence, they naturally don't think that the colorful Rayquaza will know them, and there should be nothing on this island that can attract it. In this case, the biggest possibility is Yi-Chen. As the owner of the colorful Rayquaza, only Yi-Chen can make this top-level mythical beast appear. After thinking of this, the joy in the eyes of Lance and the others suddenly became more intense, and only Damara, who was the president, still frowned. Colorful Rayquaza, not for us. He looked at the huge existence on the sky. His eyes slowly moved down, and he saw Mutwo who was looking at Rayquaza. Although I don't know exactly what it came here for, it should be Mutwo. After everyone heard this, they were shocked again, and followed Damalanki's gaze. The two top-level divine beasts were staring at each other in the air, and their attention was on each other. Giovanni naturally discovered this, and the panic in his eyes became more intense. This was the last thing he wanted to see. Not to mention the so-called elite champions of the Pokemon Alliance. With the current Mutwo, even if he encounters ordinary mythical beasts, he will not take it to heart at all. But the existence in the sky is not on this list. Not to mention the terrifying coercion. The dragon ranking list clearly states its strength. Quasi-creative class. Although Mutwo is at his peak now, and his strength has improved a lot under the blessing of Duskball, he is very clear about the strength gap between the two sides. Especially when he watched Lin Chen's influence before, he clearly felt the true power of the colorful Rayquaza. Why? Why does it appear here? Could it be Yi Chen's meaning? Thinking of this possibility, Giovanni's back was instantly soaked in cold sweat. If the colorful Rayquaza really came here by Yi Chen's wishes, it means that his behavior has already angered the latter. The consequences are unimaginable. Not only him, but those superior officers of Team Rockets were immediately paralyzed with fright after seeing Tiangong's huge figure. 7 colorful Rayquaza. Isn't that Yi Chen's divine beast? It's over. Is it possible that Chengxian has already cooperated with the Pokemon Alliance? Our painstaking planning for so many years is over. The eyes of all superior officials showed despair. They have also seen the ranking list and clearly know the meaning of the name. Not to mention Team Rockets, all the underground organizations in the world today, even the Pokemon League, can never be their opponents. If the quasi-creation level Rayquaza just made them feel terrified, then the name behind it made everyone fall into despair. They all still clearly remember the scene that the Gods list released. Countless mythical beasts filled the heavenly palace, and although the colorful Rayquaza was extremely powerful, it was only one of them. This is not an existence that anyone, or even an organization, can compete with. So much so that at this time, they didn't even have the slightest idea of escaping. At this time, Rayquaza, who was hovering over the island, did not know the impact of his appearance on the people below. Even if it's clear, it won't matter. At this point, it was all focused on Mutwo. It is indeed their breath. You are not their kind. Why do you have this breath? It questioned the Mutwo below with its mind, but unfortunately, it was destined to be unable to respond. At this time, Mutwo's eyes were full of red, just staring at the colorful Rayquaza, and the light balls in his hands were still gathering. It doesn't matter if you don't answer. I will naturally figure it out. Rayquaza's idea came out again, and the quasi-creative majesty instantly spread out. It seems to be affected by its emotions. The thunderstorm in the Tiangong is several times stronger at this moment. At the same time, the Mutwo below moved. Even if Rayquaza's breath is far better than it, there is no such emotion as fear for him who has lost his mind. The huge ball of light flew towards the sky, and at the same time, a blue light shroud appeared on Mutwo's body surface, covering it and following the ball of light to the sky. The ant shakes the tree. A majestic will resounded through the sky. I saw the colorful Rayquaza on the Tiangong open its huge mouth, and a golden-red beam of light formed in an instant, with a diameter of dozens of meters, tearing the space with a deafening rumbling sound, falling straight down. Hyper beam. In an instant, the ball of light that Mutwo shot was shrouded in itself. The red light shone on the sky, like a pillar supporting the sky and the earth, and it fell to the center of the island in an instant. Just like a knife cutting tofu, without the slightest stagnation, a deep pit with a diameter of tens of meters suddenly appeared on the entire island. After a long time, the beam of light dissipated. Thick smoke was bubbling from the deep pit, the high temperature distorted the air, and the temperature of the entire island increased a lot at this moment. If you look at it from a high altitude, you can find that there is lava flowing in the deep pit. This blow directly penetrated the entire island. Although everyone in the Pokemon Alliance and Team Rockets was not affected, they still clearly felt the power of this blow because they were on the same island. Destruction. Quasi-creation level divine beast. Giovanni looked at Tianqiong's majestic body, his legs softened, and the whole person slumped to the ground. Mutwo was nowhere to be seen in the air at this time. Under such a terrifying blow, even a first-level divine beast is difficult to stop. This is absolutely crushing strength. The core of Team Rockets was also completely frightened by this blow, and some timid ones were directly stunned by the aftermath of this blow. On the other hand, on the Pokemon Alliance side, although they were also shocked by the power of this blow, there was joy in the depths of their eyes. Their desperation lifted. Without the appearance of the colorful Rayquaza, they would have died under Mutwo's hands at this time. In the last moment, they even made the consciousness to die, but they did not expect that in a short period of time, everything had been reversed. Especially Lance and others, in addition to being shocked and joyful, there is a little bit of anticipation in their eyes. Mr. Yi Chen, they were waiting for a figure to appear. However, the colorful Rayquaza above the sky didn't even look at them, just stared at the terrifying pit that he had blasted out, and a colorful light lit up on his body. But after a while, a figure flew out of the deep pit. It was Mutwo, who was seriously injured and incapacitated. Covered by the colorful rays of light, Mutwo flew high into the sky, and then disappeared into the dark clouds behind the colorful Rayquaza. The sound of the waves hitting the reef reappeared in everyone's ears. The thunderstorm dissipated, and the dark clouds receded. But in just a few seconds, the sky returned to normal. The scorching sun was in the sky, and the wind was blowing gently, as if the amazing scene had never happened before. The only thing that can be proved is the terrifying deep pit in the center of the island that leads directly to the underground magma layer. After a long time, Lance and the others, who were sluggish in place, came back to their senses. "Mr. Yichun, are you unwilling to appear in front of us?" Lance muttered to himself. Damalangi came up and patted him on the shoulder. "We don't know too much, so let's deal with it first." Although he also wondered why the colorful Rayquaza appeared here, and Yichun did not appear, but these things can only be studied slowly in the future. There are still stalls that have not been cleaned up. Hearing his words, Lance also reacted, and then looked at Giovanni in front of him. Mutwo was taken away by the colorful Rayquaza, and now Team Rockets are naturally no threat to them. Even if everyone's Pokemon had fallen to the ground, and Dragonite was seriously injured as a third-level divine beast, it was not something Giovanni could contend against. Having lost Mutwo, he is like a beast without teeth, unable to make waves. At this time, Giovanni obviously had no intention of resisting, but just stared at the sky with dull eyes, and let the people of the Pokemon Alliance arrest him. Also arrested was a core member of Team Rockets. Because of the deep hole that Rayquaza blasted, the entire island became unstable. Lance and others did not stay here for long, and everyone with Team Rockets left here. After returning to the headquarters of the Pokemon Alliance and imprisoning the team of Team Rockets, an emergency meeting was held at the top of the Alliance. Even the elite champions who were busy in other regions have all been called up. In the huge conference room, the atmosphere was extremely awe-inspiring. After listening to Damagongchi talking about their encounters on the island, the rest of the Alliance executives were all shocked. For flowers, colorful Rayquaza appeared? Team Rockets actually have a way to control Mutwo? In addition to being shocked, everyone fell into contemplation. All this sounds too bizarre. Damalan was naturally aware of this as well, and only after the crowd digested it for a while did he speak solemnly. "Regarding Mr. Yichun's trace, we can't make too many speculations for a while. Compared with this, we should be more concerned about the motive of colorful Rayquaza's appearance. And Team Rocket's means of controlling Mutwo. They seem to have mastered some kind of special technique. That Pokeball that I've never seen before, not only forcibly controlling Mutwo, but the latter's strength seems to have increased a lot. Yes, Mutwo's power has indeed increased." Lance nodded in agreement. He has faced Mutwo head-to-head and has the clearest feeling. After being controlled by Team Rockets, Mutwo's strength is not only stronger, but also has a strong violent aura on his body, as if he has lost his mind, and the shot is the ultimate move. Such a violent aura, even in the face of those berserk Pokemon, has never felt. After hearing this, Lorelei, Cynthia, and others also nodded in agreement. Mutwo seemed to have lost his mind at the time, and it made me feel like haze. Damalanki suddenly spoke, and his expression became more and more solemn. "When I sensed Mutwo's breath, I thought about it. I still remember Mr. Yichun's battle in the replay of the God List." As soon as these words came out, everyone nodded without thinking. That battle left an indelible impression on everyone's heart, and naturally it was impossible to forget. But after Damalanki's reminder, the others didn't feel anything. Lance, Cynthia, and others who had personally experienced the Mutwo state at the time frowned. As the former said, the aura of the gloomy mob emanating from Mutwo at that time was very similar to the aura emanating from the haze in the previous Yichun battle influence, as if the two were one and the same. Could it be? Are those existences reappearing? It's quite possible, and that's exactly why the colorful Rayquaza is on that island. Several people glanced at each other, and a huge wave was turned in their hearts. It's impossible to say for sure, but it's very likely. In any case, they have to go deeper and find out everything. Anyone who has seen the impact of that passage is deeply aware of the horrors of haze. If something really came into existence, the whole world would probably be shrouded in crisis. Thinking of this, everyone did not dare to be careless. After a while, the dusk ball that was captured together appeared on the table in the conference room. After feeling the gloomy and violent aura emanating from it, the other elite champions who had not experienced the incident on the island suddenly stood up one by one with shock in their eyes. This breath is indeed exactly the same as those hazes in the battle images. What's in this Pokeball? Could it be that those beings have really resurfaced? This matter must be clarified, otherwise, the whole world may be in danger. Everyone looked solemn and looked at the pokeball, which was no more than the size of a fist. After continuing to discuss for a while, the high-level officials of the Pokemon Alliance quickly made a decision and went to the Alliance prison under the leadership of Damalangi. They're going to personally interrogate the people at Team Rockets to make sure that the changes to Mutwo and the origin of that dark Pokeball are made in the first place. This is related to the safety of the whole world, and there is no room for sloppiness. In the dead silence of the Alliance prison, there were a lot of Alliance executives and elite champions from various regions. Even the prison guards were taken aback. Slack. A series of orders were issued, and the Team Rockets who had just been sent in were quickly escorted to a special interrogation room. Even Giovanni, who was used to seeing big scenes, was shocked by such a luxurious lineup, not to mention the rest of the cadre's superior. Although Giovanni kept his mouth shut and remained silent under repeated interrogations, his men could not bear the pressure and betrayed him. And Damalanki and other high-level Alliance leaders also learned about the origin of the Dark Pokeball. The root of everything stems from an accidental discovery by Team Rockets a few years ago. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. Chapter 64. At that time, Team Rockets had just started research on genetics and had already made preliminary progress. In order to ensure that the research results can be maximized, Giovanni invested a lot of human and material resources and began to look for traces of Mew in advance. During that time, Team Rockets were rarely seen, and most of the superior cadres were dispatched to unknown locations around the world in search of ultra-ancient ruins. The long search has also paid off, at all costs. In an ancient super ruin, the superior backbone of Team Rockets managed to find a fossil of Mew's eyelashes, and Mutwo's research has been put on the agenda since then. On top of that, Team Rockets made a few other discoveries during that search. Although Duskball was researched only recently, it was put on the agenda at the same time as Mutwo. Above the snowfields in the northern Sinnoh region, researchers from Team Rockets have discovered a huge ice crevice from ancient times. In the very depths of the ice crevices, they discovered the dark matter that made up that Pokeball for the first time, and brought back a little of it for study. The Duskball seen by Damalanki and others is the product of so many years of research. Whether it is an ordinary Pokemon or a divine beast, once it is included in the Duskball, it will be forcibly controlled. The discovery made Team Rockets ecstatic, and the benefits were no less than the birth of Mutwo. However, although Duskball is domineering, his shortcomings are also obvious. All Pokemon controlled by it will completely lose their minds and become a fighting machine that only knows destruction and killing. If one is not well controlled, even the owner may be in danger. Even with the technology that Team Rockets has now, it cannot make up for this shortcoming in a short, June 17th time, and it has to be reserved as a last resort. Hearing this, the high-level officials of the Pokemon Alliance finally understood why they noticed the abnormality in Mutwo at that time. It wasn't that their feelings were wrong. Mutwo had lost his mind at the time. And the root of all this is the kind of dark matter found in the northern Sinnoh region. After getting the answer they wanted, led by Lance, the Pokemon Alliance quickly organized a superior team and began to head towards the Sinnoh region. It matters a lot. They must see that dark matter with their own eyes, and if it is really related to the kind of haze that appears in Chen's images, then the severity of the matter will probably be much higher. Just in case, the leaders who followed Lance this time were all leaders above the leader level. As for Cynthia and others, some were responsible for staying in the Union prison to continue the interrogation, and some were rushing to the headquarters of Team Rockets to wipe out the remaining Team Rockets members who were not dispatched. The soldiers are divided into three groups. The behemoth of the Pokemon Alliance, which is rarely seen, is fully functioning. Even the underground organizations such as Team Magma, Team Aqua, and Plasma Core received the wind, and they all fell silent. They did not dare to make trouble in the limelight. After rushing back and forth, 2 days later, the superior team led by Lance arrived at the huge ice crevice in the northern Sinnoh region, as Team Rocket said. This place is located in the extreme north. The temperature is very low, even with the shelter of Pokemon. All the superior members are shivering from the cold. However, at this time, they didn't have the time to pay attention to these, and they all looked at the front with shock on their faces. In front of them was a huge abyss that was 100 meters wide and stretched out at both ends with no end in sight. This is the ice crevice that originated from ancient times. Lance stood in front of the crevice, looking towards the bottom. There is only endless darkness in the eyes, as if leading to another world, coupled with the extremely low temperature around. People can't help but tremble in their hearts. Is the equipment ready? Lance looked back at the middle-aged man beside him. This time, they came to this ice crevice. In addition to some things to keep out the cold, There are also insurance items such as hooks and locks, just in case. The middle-aged man nodded and was about to say something when a voice suddenly came from behind. Master Du, there is a way there. Lance adjusted his eyebrows and looked in the direction of the member's fingers. A few hundred meters away from them, a bulge in a glacier stretched down, just leading to the depths of the ice crevice. Go. With an order, everyone immediately bulged towards that place. The ice surface was hard and smooth, and although the downward path gradually widened, enough to accommodate several people in parallel, just in case, everyone summoned their respective flight-type Pokemon and went down together with them. I don't know how long they have traveled, but the light cast from the ice crevice has been completely buried, and everyone can only rely on the light source they carry to grope their way forward. Pfft. A soft sound. An ice block fell off the glacier and fell into the endless abyss below. Be careful not to fall off, Lance reminded him aloud, and just after he finished speaking, there were bits and pieces of dust in front of his eyes, like strands of diamonds that were so small that they were dazzling under the illumination of the light source. This is... Lance narrowed his eyes, and before he could react, the temperature around him began to drop rapidly. A blue light suddenly rushed out in front of him, and wherever he passed, many ice crystals appeared in the air. This is Ice Beam. Dragonite, use Hyper Beam. As the champion, Lance's reaction was extremely fast, and he gave orders almost instantly. A huge figure appeared in front of him instantly, and a dark red beam of light roared out, colliding with the ice beam. Although the ice element restrains the dragon element to a certain extent, it is only when the strength is comparable. Not to mention that Hyper Beam is a general skill. The strength of Dragonite's current third-level beast is enough to ignore restraint and crush most Pokemon. The Hyper Beam, which contained the power of destruction, instantly overwhelmed the ice beam and galloped towards the darkness ahead. After a while, a tackle sound came out. Let's go and have a look. Lance greeted and hurriedly brought everyone to the front. Because of the angle, there was a deep pit on the glacier wall at this time, and inside the pit was a Pokemon shaped like a football. Glalie. Everyone is the top superior in the Pokemon Alliance, so they can be recognized at a glance. Why did it suddenly attack us? Look, it seems to be emitting black gas from its body. It's not right. Everyone spread out a little. Lance seemed to sense something and took a half step back while frowning. Everyone also stepped back. At the same time, Glalie, who was hit by Dragonite's blow on the glacier wall, began to struggle and then opened his eyes. Inside the pupil, there is a blood-like scarlet color, which makes people shudder. Without waiting for everyone to react, the Glalie made a deep leap and charged towards them. That's its skill, Headbutt. Dragonite, use Dragon Tail. Lance spoke again, and the burly Dragonite exhaled a burst of heat from his nose, then turned sharply. His tail lit up with a white glow and went straight to the Glalie tackle. In front of the third-level Divine Beast Dragonite, the latter flew out without any suspense and once again blasted a deep pit on the glacier wall. After being hit twice in a row, this Glalie was completely incapacitated. Her eyes were closed, and she had fainted. But after seeing the result, everyone couldn't feel the slightest joy in their hearts. You know, in normal times, any Pokemon among them can instantly kill this Glalie, but now, it is actually a double blow against Lance's ace Dragonite. Although Dragonite obviously didn't use its full strength, the result was shocking enough. Why is this Glalie like this? Generally speaking, this kind of Pokemon should not take the initiative to attack us. Did you see its eyes just now? It seems to be in a frenzy. Everyone kept guessing and analyzing, but Lance kept frowning, wondering what he was thinking. Before they could reach a definite conclusion, more than 10 red lights suddenly lit up in the darkness ahead. Everyone's heart froze, and they quickly shone the light. Icefield Bear, Cryogonal, Snowflakes. They are all Pokemons that live exclusively in the snowy regions of the ice field, and counting the existence behind them, there are dozens of them. These Pokemon hardly show up on weekdays, but now they are standing in front of everyone, looking very strange. And what caught everyone's attention the most was the scarlet color in their eyes that was similar to that of Glalie's pupils. These Pokemons are also in a frenzy. A cold glow flashed in Lance's eyes, and after making a gesture, everyone also summoned their ace Pokemon. Be quick. This is a natural bulge in the ice crevice. If the battle continues for too long and destroys the road ahead, it will be difficult for them to move on. Thinking of the stubbornness of the Glalie just now, everyone at this time did not dare to have the slightest contempt, and they did their best. Dragonite, use Hyper Beam. Scyther, use Air Slash. Crobat, attack with Venom. Rapidash, use Takedown. In order to avoid the collapse of the road under their feet, everyone grasped the power of the attack as much as possible. Fortunately, the ice surface here has been formed for many years, and it is extremely hard, but it can barely withstand it. Under the full force of the top alliance's superiors, the red-eyed Pokemon quickly fell one after another. But in less than a minute, the battle was completely over. Looking at the fallen Pokemon, all the alliance superiors were blending together, but they were not happy at all. The strength of these Pokemon far exceeded their expectations, especially the ability to fight, perhaps because they fell into a madness. Unless they were completely unconscious, no matter how serious the injury was, they would not back down. This kind of feeling is like encountering a group of desperate madmen. Even if they finally won, they still had lingering fears. Master Do you want to report the report here to the Alliance headquarters first? These Pokemons are too weird. If Barry's power is the same, I'm afraid we are not opponents. I don't know what the black gas on them is. It's best to take one back to the headquarters and let someone study it. Everyone was discussing each and every word, but Lance didn't participate in it. After letting them prepare, they continued to head towards the depths. The appearance of these Pokemons made him a little uneasy, but it strengthened his suspicions more and more. The kind of dark matter that Team Rockets was talking about was probably in the depths of this ice crevice. Along the way, not surprisingly, they encountered a lot of red-eyed Pokemon who fell into a frenzy. Under the crushing of absolute strength, although there were some twists and turns in the process, there were no surprises. After a few hours, they finally came to the bottom of the ice crevice. This is an incomparably huge icy canyon. Looking around, everything around is wrapped in a faint black mist, and the visibility is compressed to the extreme. Dragonite, use Twister. Lance spoke in a deep voice, and as a blue light lit up on Dragonite, a huge Twister instantly appeared in front of everyone. The black mist that enveloped this area was swept away in an instant, and the visibility became much clearer. This also allowed everyone to thoroughly see the appearance of this canyon. There are ice crystal prisms condensed from solid ice everywhere, giving a cluttered feeling. The only difference was a huge ice block several hundred meters in front of them. In the ice block, it seems that there is some kind of black thing frozen. There is a crack on the side, and black mist is flowing out continuously. Obviously, the faint haze that enveloped 2.1 here comes from it. That's the one. A flash of coldness flashed in Lance's eyes, and he immediately walked over cautiously with everyone. However, only halfway close, there was an anxious voice from the crowd. Scyther, what's wrong with you? Everyone looked at the sound and saw a companion, Scyther, lying on the ground at this time. His body was constantly rolling, and two sickle-like arms were placed on his head, looking extremely painful. Look, Scyther's eyes! A sharp-eyed man exclaimed. Upon closer inspection, Scyther, who had fallen to the ground, gradually had a hint of scarlet color in his pupils, and strands of haze began to gather around him, lingering endlessly. Not good. Seeing this scene, Lance's expression suddenly changed. Everyone, all Pokemon below the leader level will be taken back into the Pokeball. It's these hazes, they affect Pokemon's minds. After knowing the source of these hazes, he had already completely confirmed the conjecture in his heart, and because of this, he was able to infer the problem in an instant. After hearing this, the Alliance superiors were horrified, but they all followed Lance's command and took back their weaker Pokemon. As for high-level Pokemon, from the current situation, it should not be affected in a short time. After all this was done, everyone moved forward again and came to the front of the huge ice stone. Haze is still slowly overflowing from the cracks in the ice stone. I don't know if it was a coincidence or not. Before and after the crowd approached, the strange substance in the ice cube actually wriggled. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 65. Lance noticed the change immediately, and the whole person suddenly became vigilant, raising his hand to stop several Alliance superiors who were about to continue approaching. After a while, after confirming that there was no other change in the black matter in the ice stone, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and instructed everyone to carefully take this ice stone away. This thing is too strange. It must be brought back to the Alliance headquarters for good research. In order to prevent the spread of the strange haze, he even specially selected several powerful psychic Pokemon from the Pokemon of the crowd, and took turns to use confusion to block the entire ice stone. Under their care, the ice stone was finally transported to the Pokemon Alliance headquarters. Because this thing is very important, under the discussion of a group of high-level executives, The Alliance headquarters even vacated an area for this purpose to store this thing in order to avoid any unnecessary accidents. In the transparent isolation room, Lance, Damalanki, Cynthia, and other high-level Alliance leaders and champion elite gathered here, looking at the dark matter that had been taken out from the ice in the isolation room. All of them looked extremely dignified. If seeing that dusk ball was just a guess, it's almost certain by now. Damallan spoke in a deep voice, and Lance next to him nodded in agreement. I think so too. From the perspective of breath, this black substance should be left by those shadows who fought against Mr. Yi Chun in the image of the gods. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expressions became solemn again, and a look of shock appeared in the depths of their eyes. Inferring from Yi Chin's identity, the existences in those hazes also come from ancient times. In other words, the dark matter in front of us has existed for tens of thousands of years. Most importantly, after seeing the impact, they all knew how terrifying the abilities of those existences were. It is no exaggeration to say that they were demon gods, possessing the power to destroy the world. The results of the experiment just now came out, and as Lance said, these dark substances will affect Pokemon's mind. Even a leader-level Pokemon can only be around for half an hour at most. Once affected by it, Pokemon will go into a frenzy and become a killing machine that only knows how to fight. Dr. Oak looked at the report in his hand with the same solemn expression. This is a power he has never seen before, extremely strange and powerful. The only thing they can be sure of right now is that neither the beings in the haze that appear in the battle images nor the dark matter in front of them are definitely not good. In the face of this existence, they must be 100,000 persevering. Also at the top of the entire Pokemon Alliance, they are struggling with that weird black substance. Somewhere in the world, among the endless mountains, a majestic hall stands on the top of the mountain, and there are colorful lights in it that illuminate the sky. The colorful Rayquaza hovered in the air in the hall, and the whole body was surging with infinite power. The colorful rays of light gathered in front of it, and then turned into a beam of light to shine down. On the ground in the center of the hall, a figure was curled up at this time. It was the Mutwo that it brought here. With the pouring of infinite power, the wounds on Mutwo's body immediately healed at a speed visible to the naked eye, but within a few blinks of an eye, it was restored to its original state. Then, strands of black mist began to fly out of its body, and when it was touched by the colorful light, it instantly turned into nothingness. This scene lasted for more than a minute, and Mutwo, who was in a coma, only felt that a light suddenly appeared in the endless chaotic darkness. Its consciousness began to gradually recover, and a burst of intense pain rushed into its mind, but it was quickly replaced by a warm feeling. It slowly opened its eyes, but what caught the eye was a piercing, colorful glow. Where am I? As this question rose from his heart, a powerful wave of power surged out of its body, and the mental confusion also spread in an instant. It has a memory problem, only remembering that at the last moment, he was still playing against the team of Team Rockets. However, before all its power exploded, a more tyrannical aura suddenly shrouded it. In an instant, it just spread out and fluctuated before being suppressed. Even the momentum of the body surface was compressed at this moment. The sky was gone, and an incomparably huge figure entered its field of vision. At the moment of seeing the figure, Mutwo's eyes showed a rare shock. It has seen this figure. The quasi-created beast, the colorful Rayquaza. At this moment, it doesn't even care about its current situation, because it remembers very clearly that this divine beast with supreme power belongs to a human being who he has been looking for. Yi Chun. The name popped into Mutwo's mind almost as soon as he saw Rayquaza. It wants to figure out the meaning of its existence, and Yi Chun is the existence that is most likely to tell it the answer. Thinking of this, the only aura in Mutwo's body was dissipated at this moment. Looking at the huge figure above his head, he said with his mind, I have no ill intentions. I know, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Rayquaza's voice came out, and Mutwo fell into silence. It doesn't know what happened, why it appeared here, why the colorful Rayquaza was there. But for now, this is not the most important issue. After a long silence, it spoke again. Can you tell me where Mr. Yi Chun is now? I hope he can tell me what the purpose of my existence is. Mutwo looked earnestly at the huge figure above. When Rayquaza heard this, he was stunned for a moment, and then shook his head, his tone full of sadness. I don't know Yi Chun's whereabouts either. How is it possible you don't know where he is? Mutwo frowned, a look of shock in her eyes. It clearly remembered that the existence with quasi-creation level power in front of him was Yi Chun's Pokemon, and because of this, it felt that the latter might be able to answer its doubts. And now, even the colorful Rayquaza doesn't know where Chen is? Perhaps seeing its doubts, a grand sigh resounded throughout the hall. Because of Rayquaza's mood swings, an atmosphere of sadness quickly enveloped the entire hall, and even the light seemed to dim for a while. The last time I saw him was 90,000 years ago. 90,000 years ago? The shock in Mutewo's eyes grew stronger. In the end, what happened? Rayquaza glanced at him, did not rush to answer, but asked a question instead. Do you remember what happened before your madness? Rage? Good. Rayquaza nodded, and immediately informed Mutewo of everything that happened on the island. After listening to the latter, it seemed that some kind of memory was aroused, and a pain suddenly came to my mind. Soon, some picture fragments appeared in its consciousness. It was included in a spooky pokeball. There was endless darkness all around, as if it could engulf everything. The strange power contained in it cannot be penetrated even by its confusion strength. It presented the fragments of the picture in the memory, and after seeing the Rayquaza in the air, a tyrannical aura suddenly burst out around him. Surely they are. Those guys are back. Rayquaza's voice was full of worry, and the entire hall burst into a sky-shattering ray of light at the moment when the skill fragment appeared, piercing the sky. At this time, Mutewo was still dazed and confused. Who are they? Dark Demon? A group of strange alien world invaders. Rayquaza's voice came out, containing rage and hatred, as well as a strong fear. 90,000 years ago, Chen and those of us who followed him calmed down the turmoil and war in this world, established order, and put the world back on track. Everything is thriving. Until one day, a group of beings from another world came to this world. They call themselves Dark Demons, worship war and killing, and bring disaster to the world of Pokemon, dragging the whole world back into darkness and turmoil. So, Chen took us to start a war with the Dark Demon God. Rayquaza spoke word by word, recalling the past that had been sealed for countless years. And the doubt in Mutewo's eyes gradually turned into shock. Chen calmed the turmoil in the world and established order? Existence from another dimension? Dark God? Rayquaza's description is very concise, but Mutewo, who has self-wisdom, knows how terrifying the amount of information behind every sentence. With the body of a mortal, changing the direction of the entire world. What kind of courage and might is this? Even as a first-level divine beast, it was unimaginable for a while. However, shock to shock, it did not interrupt Rayquaza's memories. It was a long and brutal battle. Those dark demon gods are not only powerful, but also extremely strange. They have the means to control and influence Pokemon. Even divine beasts cannot avoid it. Under Chen's leadership, we did our best to narrowly win, but we just battered them and forced them out of the Pokemon world. And we paid a huge price for it. Badly won? Influence control of Pokemon, including divine beasts? Hearing this, Mutewo's eyes were even more shocked. It recalled the previous memory fragments. Obviously, it was controlled by the strange power in the haze at that time, and then entered the rampage. If it wasn't for the existence in front of him, the humans on the opposite side would probably die under its hands, and it would be completely reduced to a tool of Team Rockets in the future. Apparently, those hazes are inseparable from what Rayquaza calls the Dark Lord. Compared to this, what made it even more shocking was the result of that battle. It is very clear about the power of Chen and those divine beasts. Even though it has the power of a first-level god now, it still feels its own insignificance when facing the colorful Rayquaza. And colorful Rayquaza, it's just one of Chen's mythical beasts. With such a lineup of combat power, even destroying the world is just a matter of hand. But in that battle, he barely won. What are those so-called dark demon gods that can actually be so strong? With that in mind, Mutewo looked at Rayquaza again, as if guessing something. Rayquaza didn't notice the change, just continued. After that battle, we were all seriously injured. Ultimate Necrozma was beaten and disintegrated. Kyurem of the Tau was split into the 3 dragons of the Tau because of his severe injuries. In addition to other divine beasts were more or less affected by the power of the dark demon god, and their emotions gradually became unstable. As for Chen, at the end of the war, he was attacked by the 3 most powerful dark demons at the same time, hurting the source and had to fall into a deep sleep. That was also the last time I saw him. Rayquaza's voice came out abruptly, and at this time it was staring at a throne at the top of the hall. Mutewo followed its gaze, and quickly guessed a lot. After stabilizing the horror in his heart, he said this. Are you waiting for him? From Rayquaza's words, it can be known that although the battle was tragic to the extreme, Chen obviously did not die. It could feel that in addition to hatred and sadness, Rayquaza's eyes also had a hint of imperceptible anticipation. The latter nodded reluctantly. Before falling into a deep sleep, Chen used the power of law to imprison the memories of other divine beasts except me. In addition to not letting them fall into sadness and pain, it is also to prevent the power of the dark devil from continuing to affect their minds. As for me, I was left behind to continue guarding the Pokemon world. He said before he fell asleep that one day he would wake up again to be with us. I believe in him. In the hall, silence fell again. Mutwo looked at the empty throne, perhaps infected by Rayquaza's emotions, and there was a trace of desolation in his heart and some other inexplicable emotions. According to Rayquaza, that battle took place 90,000 years ago. In other words, it has been waiting here alone for 90,000 years. What kind of will does it take? How important is the human named Chen in its heart? Mutwo's eyes once again showed a daze. It couldn't understand this emotion, but it was very envious. Chen, where do you sleep? It opened its mouth again, and when it reacted, did it realize that it had asked a stupid question? Rayquaza has said it before, and it doesn't know where Chen is. His injuries were too serious, and he was taken to the depths of the universe by Arceus, hoping to use the power there to wake him up as soon as possible. If he comes back one day, he will definitely come here. Even if you wait another 90,000 years, Rayquaza's voice sank, as if recalling the past in his narration, still staring at the throne. Mutwo didn't ask any more questions at the moment, just fell into thought. The reality of Rayquaza's telling of this is so bizarre that it can't be fully digested for a while. Leaf. Dark Demon. Thank you for reading this story at mtlarchive.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.